Hello. Just for context, this episode was recorded in mid-February 2022.
I'm going to take my socks off.
Yeah? You're
Yeah.
feeling the sweat already?
Yeah, like what's going on? Is there some sort of like secret energy that comes out of a camera thing?
It's amazing, actually.
It's weird, isn't it? I get like that anyway when like I know that 8 people are looking at me. Do you ever get in your brain where you're like, oh wait, 8 people are listening to me now?
Yeah.
And then like the temperature just rises.
Well, this won't be that bad because there won't be eight people listening to this.
No.
Probably a third of that. Cool. All right. So I guess my usual introduction, I just say into the mic, but maybe I should be doing it straight into the camera.
Oh, there's cameras.
Yeah. Okay, let's fucking do this.
Let's do it.
We haven't technically started the show yet, so
no.
you think you feel hot now, like when I do the intro.
You're making me hot just by saying that.
Yeah, it will ramp up by 10.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's go. Let's get into the action.
I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. We're fucking this feels so weird.
Oh!
Let's do it again. Let's go again.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show with me, Dan, and my guest, Ashton Jones.
That is me, indeed. Yes, that is me.
How you doing?
I mean, that was weird, what I just did just then. So I feel a little bit awkward, but yeah, I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Just 2 cameras beating down on us.
Yeah, so this is the first videoed of my podcast. And I don't want to get excitement up too much because the only reason we got 2 cameras here today is because Ashton's very kindly brought his action cam. So yes, we're able to record both of us at the same time, as opposed to having to swivel the camera when each of us are talking.
One of us with a long pole, just like...
Yeah.
We could do that too.
But yeah, so this was, we'll get into it, but it was a good opportunity to have a video version of the first podcast, but also might be useful footage for you as well, Ashton.
Yeah.
So just to give it a context, the first episode me and Ashton did was in near the very start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
You were one of the first episodes that I recorded. And I don't like to blow smoke up your ass, but you are still the most listened to.
Get in.
So yes, so congratulations on that.
Still waiting for my trophy, but
yeah. Well, it's still only like 5 people. That's why you're at the top.
Yeah, well, still. Top of 5 people is pretty good.
So yes, that was our first podcast, and we talked about. I think there was making lifestyle changes or something like that was the title for it. So it was basically around, it was more general view on sort of how you used to be and how you used to view sort of, I guess, your self progression and self development and when that changed and how that changed. So definitely check that out. The most listened to of Along the Lines.
Listen to it.
Episodes.
It's amazing. I'm not going to sell it too much, but it might change your life.
Right, yeah. Not going to sell it too much, but it's the greatest podcast episode of all time.
Yeah.
That way it blows smoke up both of our asses.
Yeah, well, exactly. He's an all right host.
Yeah, thank you. That is the best compliment I've ever had from you. So the second episode...
Are we going to talk about the second episode?
It's a bit of a touchy subject. So this has never... I've been filmmaking, including... college and uni since I was and through my teenage years, so since I was about 13 years old I've been filmmaking. Never has a memory card or SD card corrupted where I can't retrieve the footage. The only time that's happened was the second episode I did with Ashton. It was a 2-hour long episode. It was a long one.
It was, yeah.
We chatted in depth about one ultramarathon you'd done and just generally about running more specifically. And the card corrupted and it was unretrievable.
Yeah.
Which was sad.
It was a shame.
Yeah.
But I don't hold the weird thing. It was such a good conversation.
It was.
Like I said to you, I came off the phone and I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to hear that again. I just had this feeling. So like when you messaged me, I think you like built it up first, like, mate, I've got some news. I knew what it was straight away. So it was almost like I was prepared for it. Not that I'm saying, oh, it's Dan, he's incompetent, which you are.
Yeah.
But not in this particular case.
Yeah. It was almost too good to come out type thing.
It was just such a good conversation, and it was interesting because I've never really spoken in depth about like one running thing because people ask and you say, oh yeah, like you tell stories from it, but like we went into it. But
yeah, and also all of our friends take the piss out of you whenever you bring up running. So you don't have much time to go into it.
No,
it's like when I got back from traveling years ago. I remember one of our friends saying he's never actually heard a traveling story from me because every time I'd bring up traveling, everyone would go, oh, traveling, how was it?
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. So the second one was like, it's lost.
Yeah.
It's lost. I've still got the SD card, and if one day we want to try and pay hundreds of pounds to try and recover it, then...
Might be millionaires one day.
Yeah.
We'll
and that'll be a sought after... episode potentially. We're building up the buzz. Maybe we didn't lose it. Maybe it's all part of a ruse to make it people like on the edge and like, oh, what's this episode? You know?
Oh my gosh.
But yes, so now this is the third episode technically that we've recorded, but the second episode that listeners would have heard. Hopefully this SD card doesn't corrupt.
Well, now I'm thinking about it. Is the SD card okay? Did I put it in there properly?
Yeah, but I've looked at it a couple of times and it is recording, which is good.
Okay.
So yes, this third episode, I'll just say from my point of view why I wanted to do it.
Okay.
And then you can say sort of maybe what you sort of saw this sort of tying in with what you're doing at the moment. I wanted to chat to you again for a while anyway. Chat more about running and exercise in general, and also motivation as well. I've been thinking a lot about motivation, where it comes from. And your ultramarathons, you've done more, and there is one coming up as well, which will be very interesting to talk about. So that's the general of one, and an opportunity to film as well. So that was why I wanted to chat with you again.
Cool.
And why did you want to film it? What did you want to chat about?
So obviously I am now. If we're going to get into it straight away, I'll get into what the base of it is that I have entered a 100-mile ultramarathon. Mainly because I've done 50 miles twice now, and like, even though when I did the 50 miler in September, it's just like the worst thing ever. I don't even know why I'm doing it when I'm doing it, but it's, if I can do 50, like 100's just like, it's just there.
Yeah,
I think I have to do it, even though I know it's going to be so bad. I have to attempt it. So that is So I'm filming like the training, the journey of my 100-miler, and then I think this also helps to tell the story of the 100-miler as well. But that's the main thing on my horizon right now. It's quite daunting. Yeah, it's quite scary. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm going for. So it's in 2.5 months now, 100-miler, I think. Yeah, so I've still got a long way to go.
So you wanted to collect footage. Most of it you're doing yourself, just with your own camera that you bought recently, and you wanted maybe some sort of interview at some point. But we thought it'd be a good tie-in to have an interview, you talking about stuff, but also to go on the podcast as well. Okay. So
I mean the reason I want to film it is kind of like part motivation for the training. Like I need something extra to kind of get my teeth into that will like keep me going, like an added interesting thing on top of it. Because you don't have Instagram, but the last 50 I did, I was posting quite a lot of videos of just like the places that I run, like on my long runs, like countryside and stuff like that. Because for me, it gives me a massive buzz, and I want to show other people, not to like, I want to show other people that this is what they should be doing. But it's easy to forget like how beautiful the country is, or like countryside or nature. So I just did like Instagram stories training for the last 50 of like it's literally just like a shot of like in front of me running through a field or whatever for 15 seconds. So I just thought I'd add on top of that and just put it all together, and I think it will be interesting for people to watch.
Yeah, and at very least it's a time capsule of this time and what you went through and what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's go back a bit. So specifically with running, if we could just if you just talk about your journey so far from when you first became really interested in running to this point you are now, sitting in I don't think we haven't acknowledged yet that we're sitting in my kitchen / lounge
in this beautiful apartment,
this beautiful studio.
Yes,
that's been manufactured to look like a casual setting.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep it casual, natural. So we built a set.
Yeah. We had a designer in.
Yeah. And occasionally you do make food for the evening here, and then you watch TV on the couch, and then you go to bed.
Sometimes sleep here.
Yeah.
Only once, maybe once a day I'll sleep here.
Yeah, once a day, and once a day you'll have like dinner here.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe 3 times. It just depends.
Yeah.
So yes, this is my flat, everyone. This is a portion of my flat. You are seeing me sort of half into my kitchen. I have tidied it up a little bit, so hopefully it won't be as embarrassing. And Ashton is sporting my TV behind him and some collages that me and my partner made, movie collages.
They're cool. I didn't know that you made them.
We did, yeah. We got the frames from a shop, like the clear thing, and then we just cut out loads of pictures.
I like it.
Thank you.
Good effort.
Yeah, I got this book ages ago, which was like...
How to collages.
It was like old movie posters.
Yeah.
And have a look at them later, but they're we don't make movie posters how we used to. They're so amazing.
Yeah,
the artistry behind them.
Yeah,
so cool. So yeah. Yes, this is where we are.
Yeah,
we don't have a studio.
We don't need a studio.
We don't need no. The quality of the conversation will come through, hopefully. So yeah, sorry. Your journey from first getting interested in running and now.
So yeah, the first time I got interested in running came at a time which I'm sure a lot of people go through regularly. I basically just didn't know what I was not that I didn't know what I was doing with my life, but I was just like in a bit of a moment where kind of when you're moving into adulthood, where like you're a little bit lost. You know, the future is uncertain. So I was going through that period, and then I discovered what I've spoken to you about, David Goggins and his episode on Joe Rogan, and that moment just like, it's given me a little bit of goosebumps, to be honest, because it like the moment was like so, I don't know, I can just remember it so clearly. It really like was an epiphany moment, like watching that, and I just loved what he was saying, what his message is. And it just blew me away. And his message was just kind of like challenging yourself to grow as a person. I was obviously someone that was like, maybe without noticing, I was looking for something to like do, not necessarily to challenge myself with. And I only put the episode on because I watched another guy talking about him, and it was a really funny clip. And I was like, oh, maybe I said to myself, I'll listen to half an hour of it. I think it was like 1:00 in the morning. I listened to half an hour, and then like 2 hours later, I was just like captivated. So that was the start.
So this was the first episode, because he's done 2 with Joe Rogan.
This was the first one. I think he hadn't even released the second one by now.
Yeah, people want to check it out. It's the first episode with Dave Goggins and Joe Rogan.
And there'd been a few other things as well, but it was just this idea of mainly this idea of running. I kind of like it. Just there was something about it which I found quite appealing. But I attempted after watching that, and like I failed. I think I did 4 runs, and it just fell apart. Because running doesn't feel good, especially at the start. It does, but at the start, it really doesn't feel good. It's just horrible. Your body is not used to it.
So why running at that point? Why did you listen to that podcast, and what clicked to make you go, I'm gonna go on 4 runs?
I don't actually know specifically running. He speaks a lot about ultramarathons in it. Obviously he's done like a loads of things with his life. Like his life is just crazy, going from 300 pounds to 190 in 3 months, getting into the Navy SEALs. But there's the whole section where he discovers ultramarathon running, and at that time I'd never heard of ultramarathon running. It's like, until you hear about it, you think, oh, the pinnacle of running is a marathon, and like that's it. Like everyone says, oh, marathon's horrendous. So the thought of people doing double, triple, quadruple that is like, I just didn't even think it existed. So he's talking about that. And I don't know, it's just like, it was just very intriguing. And his message about pushing yourself, I don't know. I just thought it struck a chord. I've always gone to the gym. So it was like a different type of challenging physical thing. And I just liked the idea of it. I liked the idea. And then after that, I started discovering ultramarathons, like watching documentaries on it. And I was really inspired by people, like by how horrible of a time these people were having. Like I thought it was awesome in like a weird way. Like you in ultramarathon documentaries, they're just like breaking down. They're like having breakdowns. They're crying. Sometimes they're hallucinating, but they're still going. And like,
so you wanted to cry and hallucinate?
I wanted to cry and hallucinate. That's the only reason. I just wanted to have a terrible time to punish myself. But even that, I don't know why that appealed to me so much. It just did. It just like, I want to do that. It just looks so cool. I think it was just inspiring. And so I finally started, I think it's Jan 2019 maybe, where I made a plan for the year. It's like, I'm going to run 20 kilometers over January, 30 over Feb, and then add it over the year. And that was my plan. I had like an Excel spreadsheet, and I just stuck to that. And that was great, because I don't know if I would have made it. It gave me something to keep on going, to like complete the goals. Because then once you complete goals, it becomes quite addictive doing that.
So David Goggins and Excel are the two.
Yes, literally. I had it color coded. So like, if I in the first year, if the run was like over 10k, then the color would be different. So like, if you input a 10, the color would be like blue for that cell. And then if you did it over half a marathon, it would be green. So like, that was that's the levels I went through to make it all
the link
great.
to that spreadsheet will be in the thing.
We should link it, to be fair, because it's I tell anyone who's ever asked me, I want to get into running, I tell them that just like, plan it out. Just have a plan and set yourself long-term, short-term, medium-term goals. So that's what I did. And here we are, 100 miles, training for 100 miles.
Well, so you've done 2 ultramarathons since.
Yeah.
So you started running, you were doing your Excel spreadsheets and your color coding.
Yeah.
And then what was that running like? Were you just, you knew you wanted to do an ultramarathon, you just building stuff up for that? Or were you just, what was your mindset with these first few months of just running? Like,
the ultramarathon wasn't actually really a goal at the start. Even a marathon wasn't a goal. Like, I remember like a few months in, speaking to our friend Sam and saying, "Oh, it'd be cool to one day run a marathon." And it was like, "Yeah, why don't you just do one like this year or next year? Like, just say you do one." So even at that point, I didn't have a plan to run a marathon. It was more like the discipline. Like, I needed something. It's like an anchor. Like, I needed something to just like anchor me down. And
how often were you running?
So I was running probably at the start like three or four times a week, maybe 3 times a week. But obviously, if I'm aiming for 20k in the first month, it would have been 7 3k runs. It would have been like very small. Like, started very small. I tried to be manageable, because I think that's where people mess up. Like, I say that, like, you have to set realistic goals. And if people are gonna, the main thing is setting unrealistic goals and saying like, I'm gonna start getting up at 6 a.m. every day and going for a run, because it's just horrible. No one wants to get up. You're like punishing yourself to do it. So like, adds this added pressure. So I just like added like built it slowly, and then obviously once I was having to do 50 a month, I just naturally had to do more runs. I think I probably did like 3 or 4 a week average. So it just grew like that. And then in the first year, I did end up doing a 10k And then once you do a 10K, you're like, oh, maybe I should do a half marathon. And then I did stupidly.
What is a half marathon? Is that 13?
13 miles.
13 miles.
21 kilometers. So it's basically like you're doubling it every time.
Yeah.
You're doubling it every time. So like you do your first 5K, that's like a goal. And then first 10K, which I did the London 10K, which was like great being around London. And then marathon's 21. Half marathon is 21 kilometers. Marathon's 42. So it's like a very steady increase. So yeah, but it was actually after I did the 10K, my first 10K run, I remember saying to someone, I want to run 50 miles. So that was, and that was like a stupid thing to say.
That's quite a big jump.
Yeah, literally. I've run 6 miles, like, I want to run 50.
Yeah.
But I just like, that was when I was like, that's what I want to do. That was like my goal.
Do you think at that point then it became sort of ingrained, as opposed to like the honeymoon period where it's easy to drop out once it seems like if you then you'd been running a little bit and then you're going, right, I want to do a 50 miler. Do you think like then it was more like, I think this is going to be a thing I'm going to be doing for a while. Yeah.
And that was why the first 2 years, like obviously it's so tough, like being that disciplined, like it sucks. Like most of the time you don't want to go for a run. Like, so it is tough, but I always had that goal, like goal of 50 miles. So it was interesting after, so the first year I did 10K and then half marathon. Then I did actually do a marathon at the end of the first year I started running, which was a massive mistake because you can double it. You can double it up to half marathon, but half marathon and a marathon distance, it's just worlds apart.
Right.
It's like, that's like the next level of like pain, suffering. Like it's just ridiculous, the difference between the two. So I did that the first year, but I shouldn't have. And then first half of the second year, I properly trained for a marathon, ran that. And then in September, I did the 50 miler. So that was like, it was basically like a 2-year plan that like I enacted.
So within that 2 years, you did your first half marathon, your first marathon, your first ultra marathon, 50 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've done 2 ultra marathons.
Yes.
Not since. You've done 2 ultra marathon total so far.
Yeah.
So you did 1 since that first one.
So I did the same 50 miler last year as well.
Okay. Well, let's zero in on them. Yeah. What were both of those ultra marathons like? Start with the first one, I guess.
The first one,
you had no idea what you were getting yourself in for, really.
The first one, so it was obviously during like a bit more during the pandemic. So it was like it was a bit different because of that. They had like a rolling start over 2 hours. So you basically there was no start. You like start when you're ready in a 2-hour space. And it was, I'm trying to think back to what it was like, the scene. It was obviously exciting. Like I was buzzing. I was like buzzing to get started, to go. But it was horrendous. Yeah. It was horrendous. It was so bad.
What was horrendous about it?
So I had a goal for it, which was a sub 10 hours. I really wanted to get under 10 hours. But your body just breaks down. For me, well, like there's obviously in the marathon, there's a wall, right? Like that, the wall is an actual thing that exists.
When does that usually come? Isn't it a certain point?
It's not, people normally say with a marathon, marathon's in 2 halves, the first 20 miles and the last 6. So like the wall is like, tends to be around 20 miles.
Right.
And the wall's like a real thing, man. It's real. It's like when you hear about the wall, you're like, yeah, but you've got 6 miles left. It's like, it's fine. But it is literally 2 halves, like the first 20 and the last 6.
But what specifically is the wall?
For me, there's almost like, I think the way David Goggins describes it is there's like a limiter on the body.
Right.
And you have to, and like you have to push through there. There's almost like a limiter. Like for me, I get to like 35 kilometers and it can literally go from 1 minute, I feel fine, to the next minute, my body is just like my legs.
Is 35 kilometers 20 miles?
Yeah, it's about.
Sorry,
20,
can we stick
22.
with what?
Sorry,
just to make it clear for people.
I talk in both.
If we stick with miles,
sticking miles
for the rest of the conversation,
22 miles is I think 35 kilometers.
Okay.
So, cool. And it just turns. For me, it's like your legs, like the bottom half of your body is just like pure pain. Like every step
so
is
the pain really
so it goes
up.
from like, obviously you're tired and fatigued when you run, and your legs get tired and fatigued, but it turns to the point where like it's just your muscles in your legs are on fire. For me, I get like really bad cramps, which are like, it's like the worst feeling in the world. It literally feels like you've been tased in the legs. Like that's the only way I can explain getting one of these cramps. It's just weird. Your body just breaks. It just falls apart like instantly. Like when I did that marathon that I trained for in the second year, like a minute before it all broke down, I was like, this is great. I'm gonna get my goal. Blah blah blah. And literally a minute later, I was in like just hell.
Wow.
So it's weird. It is weird. It is like there's a limit to your body where it says, oh, you've done 20 miles now. Oh, right. And then there's just some sort of hormone dump which goes boom, and everything. It just tells you like stop. Your legs fall apart. You can barely walk. Jelly legs. But I can't explain it. It's like
sure.
I've had people who have asked, who are like training for like marathons, and I've tried to like tell them this is what's going to happen, and everyone, it's the same for everyone. Like you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, the wall, but then it happens, and like they all, every time they come back after, it's like, it just fell apart.
Yeah,
it just like you can see it in the times. They just drop. It just becomes a massive slog. So
would you say? I know obviously it's very difficult to sum up your experiences and feelings in words, but would you say pain is the main?
It's pain and it's panic as well.
Right, so it's a mental thing as well.
It's like both.
Right.
Like I get very panicked. Everything's like super dramatic. If I have to, honestly, even like running down the road and having to step up onto the curb, it's like dramatic, and like that movement can make your legs seize up and you'll be on the floor. So it's like, I think I've tried to explain that to you before. It's like your brain's in like a frenzy. So like everything's like, where am I going? Where's it? Wow, that's there. Jump up on this curb. Like it's just going 100 miles per hour.
Have you ever fallen over on one of these marathons?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I did. The marathon I did by myself, I did like my own marathon because it was during the pandemic, like right at the start. Right. So I did my own. I don't know if I fell down, but there was a few times where like I like fell apart, went like like grabbing my leg as there's like someone like walking past me like on the pavement and like looking at me like I'm mental. And then there was one time in the 50 miler where the cramps really badly hit me in the 50 miler, like worse than ever.
At what point in miles?
It was probably the same spot, probably about 22 miles.
Okay.
But I actually, the first marathon, I was doing all right. It did hit, but like I trained so much that like it wasn't terrible.
Okay.
It was mainly for the ultramarathon. After about 30 miles, it was like after 30 miles, the last 20 miles was just like, just move any way you can and try and get to the finish line. But then you go in waves and ups and downs. But I did fall over during the ultramarathon where I had like this massive cramping session where like you have to stop and your legs, like I said, it feels like they're being tased. So like it's incredibly painful. You have to just kind of stop, hope it eases, try and stretch out. So I did that, and then I started running again, and it was like a nice little downhill slope. So I was like, oh, all right, I'm getting a bit of speed now. Okay, my legs are moving. Obviously, they're trail running. You're running through trails. Bang! Hit my toe on like a tree root. Splat, face down.
Oh god!
And then, like I said, jumping up onto a curb can set your legs into like spasm mode.
Yeah.
So I jump straight down, and then my legs shoot out, like go pew, because all my muscles contract or whatever. So I'm just lying in the path with my legs in the air, just going like oh my god. And then like a guy comes running round the corner, and he's like, "Oh, you're right," and I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And and that was I think that was probably the only fall I've had like that.
Right. It was quite like that.
It was
where your legs were straight.
My legs.
I'm picturing you like a V.
I was a V. Yeah, I was a V. So yeah,
wow.
My legs weren't in the air. My back was like, I was like that, and just trying to like grabbing the ends of my legs, like, oh my god. It was so stupid that like I was laughing for the next 5 minutes when I started finally running again, because it was just like so comical. Obviously, like you hit the floor and your legs, which are already like incredibly, the muscles are just fatigued, like no, like completely drained. So that was the main time that has happened to me, and it was just it was ridiculous. It was like a ridiculous situation to be in. But yeah, that's the main time it's happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm aware that we've got a lot to get through. So
We do, yes.
And we did focus on the unknown, the lost second episode intensely on the first ultramarathon. So let's maybe move on to the second one. How did that compare? Okay, and overall, how did that compare with the first one?
The second one was, I would say the second one was better overall, because the first one I was trying to hit a goal. When everything did fall apart, I was like really like grinding through, and it was like it was horrible. Like I was really like just trying to get there to the end. Whereas the second one, I decided like I've done this before. I don't need to set myself like a goal. I don't need to put so much pressure on myself.
Goal is in terms of
just like
time, right? Yeah.
And I only did it. I finished 5 minutes after 10 hours, so it wasn't that much slower. Maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes slower than the first time.
And why did you want to? Because as we'll sort of realise in the rest of the conversation, people will realise about you anyway. You do like to push yourself, obviously.
Yeah.
So why did you not want to set? You know, the logical thing would be like, well, you want to get a better time. So why did you not want to? Was it just so you could enjoy it more, or?
It was because there was. I didn't think that my training wasn't great for it, really, and I didn't think that I needed to. 10 hours was so tough. I was like, and it damaged me a lot. Like it literally probably took me about 4 months to recover from the first one.
What, physically?
Physically, yeah.
Yeah.
And mentally, I was like drained for maybe a month.
Right.
But yeah, physically, it like really destroyed me, because I was pushing like over the edge of, like I was really pushing too hard to get to that goal. So I thought that wasn't really worth it. I want to like complete it, but I don't want to put that added pressure on. There was no need to. Like either I'm going for a sub 9 hour, or it's like it is what it is.
So you didn't want the same effect in your personal life.
Yeah,
you didn't feel the need for it to have as big an impact the first time.
Yeah, and I didn't want to like be as panicked as I was in the first one, which is like I said, when you kind of like hit the wall, your brain goes into like panic mode.
I know it's difficult to separate them out because they'll feed into each other, but which do you think was worse, the panic or the pain? The panic and the pain.
The panic and the pain. It definitely the pain.
Right.
The panic's just like something that it comes probably with experience that you like learn.
I just pictured you in the V shape again.
Across the path as well, like literally on the path across it, like V shaping across the path. It was ridiculous. But the pain, definitely.
Yeah.
So the second one, I wanted to take it easier, and I wanted to just I wanted to still like complete it and do well, but I wanted to experience it more. And the second one was. It was weird because they were completely different. Like I said, the first half, maybe the first just under a marathon, was like pretty sweet, like chilled, and then it fell apart, and it didn't fall apart and get better. It kind of just went like just downhill for the last 20 miles of it. Whereas the first one, I got to about 20 miles, and it turned, and I spent the next probably 15 miles. Just like just having a horrendous time. Like after 20 miles, I was like, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Right. At one point, I was crying. Like it was just really, really horrible.
What sort of crying? Was it like, or was it like just sort of like the tears were rolling? It's kind of like,
like I had my sunglasses on, so it's just like. It's like that.
Yeah. So because it's just the pain and everything is just so intense.
I was having a horrible time.
Yeah.
And then I have my phone in my pocket because it's such a long day out. And when I was having terrible times, I'd look at my phone because I'd just ask people to like just message me during, because it does help. Like just like anything you want to say. and I was having a really, really bad time, and I was on the edge of crying anyway. And I got my phone out, and my brother had sent me a voice note from Grayson saying like,
your nephew.
"Come on." Yeah, my nephew, 2 years old, or 2.5 years old at the time, or maybe 3 years old at the time. And the voice note was like, "Go on, Uncle Ashton, you can do it." And I just broke down. I was just like crying my eyes out. It's the thing with the feeling frantic is your emotions are like at the extremes, like both ends. So, so I was having a really horrible time. The middle of the course is just like probably about half a mile uphill, half a mile downhill. There's no rest. There's no like, and the uphills when your legs go, you probably have to walk them because like if you can't run up them.
So this is the first one.
This is the second one.
The second one.
Yeah.
So this is the second one course was more intense.
It was the same course, but for some reason, it just was affecting me at a different stage in the race. And the middle bit was like a long slog of just uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill. There was no rest. Like if you're running like a lot of elevation, you expect eventually for there to be a 2-3 mile section where you're like kind of cruising slowly downhill and you can get a bit of pace in, or even just flat. But this was like up, down, up, down, up, down. So that was like really getting at me like physically.
But you had that in both of them.
Yeah, I just think it just hit me differently this time. Right. I don't know why. It just
and the second one affected you worse.
Yeah, that section.
Yeah.
And it's like if I did it again this year, another thing would happen. It's just like you can't plan when you're gonna hit the wall. And I hit the wall pretty early on the one in September, and that's when I was panicking. Where I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this because it was like, I think it was probably like 18 miles in where like I hit it and it just became horrendous.
That's really interesting. The second one you did, you panicked earlier.
It's just I don't know. Your body just reacts to it different. I will. The one we did, the second one, it was a really sunny day. It was probably like 24 degrees, but it was humid, no clouds. So from 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock, I was just getting blasted by the sun.
Right.
So like, imagine being at 6 hours in the sun anyway, running for 6 hours with the sun just beating down. So I think that like probably drained me more, maybe made me sweat more, and then I was like my body was more drained earlier. So yeah, the middle section was horrendous. I cried, which was pretty sad. And
did you cry in the first one or?
You just get emotional anyway when you run these distances. Like I said, the emotions are right on the surface. Yeah. So say if there's people who will be on the course like applauding, like, "Oh, you're doing great!" Like it's a long course, so it'll be like 3 people that will come across like every few miles, and that would always make me like nearly cry, just because it's like it's a very beautiful thing. Like you're in a horrible place, and they're like cheering you on, and they're just complete strangers, and that would always like put me on the edge. And then those are basically the times in the first one, in either one, like where when someone's cheering you and you're in a really horrible place, it just brings up the emotions, and you just want to cry about it because you're in such a horrible place. But yeah, the second one was the only time like I just properly just had a cry. So yeah, then I did that section and it was horrendous. Like I said, that was probably the worst running experience I've ever had in the second one, the middle section, the hilly section. And I was having a really terrible time, and it got to, I think, like someone messaged me on the WhatsApp group, like, "Where you at?" And I was having such a terrible time. I didn't want to like face how far I was away from the end. So I said to myself, I was like, I'll reply when I've got half a marathon left. So I kept on going, kept on like struggling on. Got to a half marathon.
So that's what, like 7 miles or something?
Half marathon's 13 miles. So
sorry. Sorry.
Marathon, so probably about a quarter left.
Yeah.
And I finally replied saying, I've got 13 miles left. And I'd put in some music to like try and get me past this section. So I put into like a dance music, just like I need to do something. Put in this album, like a dance music album, just like high energy. I sent this message, and then the first reply back was like, "That's effing awesome. And then I just had this moment where I was like, that is awesome. I was like, that's awesome. I've got like half a marathon left. That is amazing. And it just, my emotions just flipped. Like this was the maddest thing that's ever happened to me, I think. Like one of the maddest feelings I've ever had, right? And all these things coincided. This like high energy music, this album that I love, this message, and then the course at the same time just like leveled out and just started cruising downhill. And I like went from 1 minute feeling like I wanted to cry for the last 2 hours to like complete euphoria. And like the pain in my legs honestly went like, wow. I couldn't feel my legs. And I just started bombing it down this course. And for like the next 8 kilometers, I was just like flying. I've got a video of it. I can maybe send that and you cut it in. It was just it was mental. And like I was passing people who obviously part of the ultramarathon, and they were just like cheering me on, like, go on, son, because this is like 35 miles in. Yeah. So everyone's like trudging along, doing the best they can, and I was just literally just like sprinting. Wow. For 8 kilometers, and just like all the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up. The pain in my legs that I was like was the worst thing I'd ever felt. Like went, and not like it went like mentally, like I just could get through it. Like I didn't have any pain in my legs. It was they were just like numb. It was really weird. So like so that happened, and then it just kind of like the rest of the end of the run that lasted for about 8 kilometers, and then the rest of the end of the run was like just kind of like a good time, like good spirits. Obviously really tough, but it was just the ending, basically the same part where it like really fell apart the first time was like the opposite this time. It was because that's obviously the last quarter, so you're supposed to be in like, you're going to be in the worst phase. And and that happened. And
it sounds so unpredictable, and so it can just change any minute with how you feel. And
and I think it's just like your body is your hormones in your brain is like, it's like self-preservation. It like doesn't know what to do. So I think with the like the wall, you get to the wall and your body's like, you need to stop, and then the wall is like 6 miles till the end of the marathon. With an ultramarathon, you have to keep on going. So I think it just got to the stage where my body was like, oh, we're not stopping. So I need to like flip the whatever's going on, hormones or whatever. Something like flooded my system. I don't know if it was adrenaline or something like that. But yeah, it's just like your body's just in survival mode. And I think that's what's so addictive about it.
Right.
Because that feeling was mental. Like yeah, I can't even, it was like the most euphoric feeling I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Like, ever. Over everything. Like it was like I was levitating. It just felt amazing. Obviously that's like runner's high. It's like a thing, but I'd had runner's high before, but yeah, that was
this was another level.
Yeah, complete another level, and it was awesome. You just like flying down, and then made it to the end, and that was it.
Nice. So okay, so they're the ultra marathons you've done, and they were 50 miles.
Yes.
And tell me about the one coming up and when you decided to do it and why.
The 100 miler was always there. I actually nearly entered this same one last year. In hindsight, it was good that I didn't, because like I said, I was so broken down after the 50 miler. I'd like gone so hard on my training for 2 years that my body just needed a break, I think. So I luckily missed the cutoff to enter, or like if the entries filled up last year. 50 miler was my goal. Like I always wanted to run 50 miles, but then once you do 50, you just got to. It's 3 figures. Like you just got to try it.
So in the ultramarathon world, is 100, I know it's not the complete maximum, but is that the generally accepted like sort of maximum, or do some people do like 200 or? Yeah,
so the 100 is probably like the iconic one. Obviously it's 100, so like that's like the basic bit, but the biggest ones are generally 100, like the Hard Rock 100, the Hurt 100, right. Like the some of the most famous ones are 100 milers. There are ones that are longer. there's the Moab 240, which is 240 miles.
Wow.
In the Moab Desert in Utah. David Goggins did that last year, I think. He came second.
Wow.
It took him 63 hours, which is obviously mental. I think that's probably for a single non-stopping race, that's probably the longest. I think there might be ones that are longer,
because obviously most people won't know about ultramarathons. So 100 miles are the sort of the key goal, aren't they, for most people who want to get into ultramarathons. I think anything over that is more for the, I don't know, people who are just beyond crazy.
Yeah 100 miles is like the pinnacle. Really, there are obviously other pinnacles, like there's UTMB, I think it's called. The UTMB is like the pinnacle of ultramarathoning.
Right.
I think it's 100 miles. It's like through the French Alps. So that is like the pinnacle of the pinnacle. But 100 miles is probably, it's the one that you want to get to. Because
I wanted to give some context, because obviously context to why this was at the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Because obviously 50 miles is a lot to some people, but you know, how far up do you go? Do you go to like 1,000 miles? You know, but 100 miles is the one you go for.
Yeah.
So did you decide to do this soon after you finished the 50 miler, the second 50 miler?
I was unsure. Like I was never 100% sure of the 100 miler, but I knew it was there, and there was always that thing is like, if I miss it now, will I ever get back to being able to do it? I was still unsure. I was unsure of this 100 miler. I entered it probably in like August, September last year.
So before you did the 50 mile?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I entered it, and I wasn't. I up until the end of December, I wasn't sure if I was going to start training for it. If I was just going to you know what, I'm not going to do it. And I really wasn't up for it for most of the time, because after the 50 miler, I was like, I'm going to take time off running. I'm not going to run at all. Like, so the first time I hadn't run for like 2 weeks in a row for 3 years or whatever. So I took 3 months off, basically didn't exercise for 1 minute in 3 months, just drank beer, ate pizza. It was pretty good. But the reason that I did that is because for the years before, I'd been like, next step, like pushing to the next one. And I just wanted to give my mentality like a bit of a break, like to refresh, because it becomes the training for the last 50 like wasn't good. I wasn't in a good like mental place. Right. It was like a real chore. And I just wasn't enjoying it at all. I was a bit like not frantic. I was a bit all over the place, like mentally. Like it was really tough to train for. So I took 3 months off, and then I was like, at the end of those 3 months, it wasn't always going to be 3 months, but I was like, I'm going to wait until like there's like an ignition of like fire again. And if there's none, then I'm not going to run 100 miles. But it did after about 3 months. I was like,
and you're like really fat, and
that was probably it.
I'm going to do 100 miles.
I was like, oh god, what have I done? So there was just like an igniting, like a fuel that I was like, I think I want to do it.
So maybe December.
Yeah.
You decided?
Yeah, December. Yeah, and it would have been like literally near the end of the year.
So you're doing it in May.
Yes.
So May is the 5th month of the year.
Yeah.
So basically 5 months from when you decided to do it to get ready to run 100 miles.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going all right. So I was going to start on Jan the 1st. I tested positive for COVID on New Year's Eve. Literally on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
And I tested positive for the next 10 days.
How did you test? But did you just feel unwell? And
I felt just like I knew I had it.
Oh really?
Like I felt unwell, like a bit weird the day before, and then the next day I was like, it's different. It's like, have you had COVID?
No, I think I have, but not knowing I have it.
I think for me, I knew. So maybe if you didn't know, well, it depends, because it's like really weird. It was like a completely different feeling. Like you have flus and colds, and then I just felt weird, like the symptoms.
Right.
So I was like, I've got it. I did the test, and like literally straight away it was the double line. So like the worst start I could have imagined.
Yeah.
And this is coming off 3 months of no exercise. So I had like no base already, but those 2 weeks of the year were going to be like my base loading up into the training. So I had that the first 10 days, and then the week after I was testing negative, but the symptoms were like almost worse, I guess, because I'd been in the flat all day to like going about normal life. Like I was just shattered, exhausted, like just shattered, had a terrible cough.
Were you concerned that you might have long COVID or like might last a bit longer?
Yeah, it felt like long COVID. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know like when this was going to end. That was about a week. So the first 2 weeks, I think 17 days of the year, just gone. And that really affected my fitness as well, because I did a few runs at the end of December, like a few 5Ks, and like it wasn't terrible. Like I could go at a good pace, but since that period, like my fitness levels like dropped massively. So I started 2 weeks in, and I'm starting basically from a guy who hasn't run in 4 months at this point. So I'm starting from square one, like zero. And all I'm going off is that I have the experience to build up to it. Like I know what I need to do. So yeah, I started basically from ground zero first. Maybe I shouldn't say ground zero. I started from zero at the first week, and then just like have been building up, like not just building up my fitness, but like starting my fitness again, and then building it up from nothing, and then building it from there. So yeah.
And how do you build up your fitness? You personally, how do you train? How often do you do it? Do you have certain ways of like? Yeah, I don't even know how to even start thinking about training for a 100-mile run. Like, how do you personally go about it?
So what I do, I work on like weekly distance. So I basically set myself a goal. It can change slightly depending on how I'm feeling. But so for the first week, I set myself like run 20K this week, and it's got to build every week. I know that I need to get, like, for me, the magic number, I don't for some reason, this is going to be in kilometers, not miles, because I'm not sure what it is in miles, but 70 kilometers a week is like my magic number.
What's that, like 50 miles roughly?
Yeah, I think it's probably like 46 miles.
45 miles total a week, roughly.
That I need to get to.
Yeah.
To be in like endurance, like build up endurance fitness. So what I'm doing now is I'm building up from 0 to 70 kilometers to 46 miles in a week. So I'm just building it up like step by step. So just increasing the distance. Last week I ran, so the first week was 20 kilometers. What's that? Like 12 miles. And then week after would have been 14 miles. Week after would have been 21. And then last week would have been 30. And then this week I'll be probably doing 65 to 70 kilometers. So 45-ish. So just like building the base up into running.
Will you ever run a full 45 miles or anything close in one, or would you only do it across a week?
So when I was training for the 50 miler, my long run was 32 miler, so that's 50 kilometers. So they say that you should do your longest run should be 60% of what you're going to do.
Right.
Because I don't know what I'm going to do with this 100 miler, because running a 50 is like an ultramarathon in itself.
Yeah.
Running 50 kilometers, 32 miles is an ultramarathon in itself. Like anything longer than a marathon is considered an ultramarathon.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want to push it too much, because that is like such a toll on your body that, say for the 50 miler, if I ran a 50 miler in training, yeah, it would just be like stupid, because your body, it would do more damage to your body than.
So how far are you going to go with for the 100?
I don't know.
What are you sort of thinking at the moment?
If I'm running by that rule, 60%, I'd have to run 60 miles.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
I guess you'll run at least the long run that you did for the 50 miler, 32 or whatever it was.
Yeah. And some people, like obviously reading online, some people suggest that. I'd probably have to do more. So I'm thinking probably like 60 kilometers. So what's that, like 40 miler maybe, something like that. But I really don't know. That's like kind of part of the planning. Like I plan as I go. So that'll be like probably 2 weeks before the date. I'll have to do that.
This may seem like a stupid question. Why train? The only reason I ask that is reading David Goggins' book. He ran a 100-miler without any training, and he'd never run a 50-miler before. Yeah, I obviously know that common sense tells you to train, but what are the key reasons you train?
You've got to build up the strength in your legs, the fitness capacity. You have to build it up. Like at the start.
Otherwise, what will happen?
You won't do it. You won't make it.
Meaning
you won't run 50 miles. I
know.
But
what does that mean? What does that look like?
You will. You just won't be able to run. You won't be able to move on your feet for that long. Maybe you'll be able to walk.
Well, you'll collapse.
I don't know if you'll collapse. You'll just have to stop. Like the pain that I went through in the 50 milers with like serious training. So imagine that, like you're hitting the wall, like your legs breaking down, your body breaking down. That was with like intense training. So it's just your body would break down. Your body would break down in a 50 miler, maybe like 10 miles in, and you've got 40 miles. It's just not possible. You might have your wall might be earlier than just way earlier. I wouldn't have been able to run. So like when I started this year and I was running 5 kilometers, I wouldn't have been able to run a marathon. Like it wouldn't have been possible. It would have been like too damaging. That's another thing as well. You'd just damage. You'd tear a muscle. You'd like really damage your body. It would just.
The reason I ask, I'm not suggesting you don't train or suggesting other people shouldn't train.
Yeah.
But it did. I read David Goggins' book, obviously, and that book, we chatted about before, had more of an impact on me than the podcast. And like I say, he ran 100 miles. He did an ultramarathon 100-miler without any training. And I just, it made me change my perception of where people's limits are and where we place our own limits, because we do place our own limits, really. There are physical limits in place, but I just wonder how much of the training is for mental limits.
Yeah.
Like, will your body actually stop? Well, when you say you can't, or when you say you it's impossible, that becomes a lot more hazy for me after I've read his book, because you read it and you're like, fuck, there's a lot more that's possible. So yeah, I guess that's
what I would say with David Goggins as well. He obviously had incredible fitness before. So he didn't have running fitness, but like the guy, I can't remember the speed he said he was running it at, but his speed that he was running that first 50 miles was like amazing. So he obviously had a level of fitness there, but also you have to remember that he says he probably was like nearly killed himself doing that.
And he did have very severe injuries after.
Very severe. That's just not worth it. No. But it's a good point. I try and train too much, because I otherwise I'll be on the start line and I'd already be like, oh no, like I want to be safe. I basically want to limit the pain on the day as much as possible. So what I do is train as much as I think I should and can to limit like that pain. So I probably could have done a 50 miler with like half the training, but it would have been so much worse. It would have just been so terrible.
And I think that's why I want to get that out, because for me, the word can't or impossible is very loaded, especially after reading this book. And don't get me wrong, I've done nowhere near. I've never even done that. The most I've ever run was the park run that we did together.
So
in
that
one
was
go.
What, 5K? Right? Do you think you could run a 50 miler now? I'm not challenging.
See, this is where I think after reading David Goggins' book, I could.
Okay.
But not because I don't. But that's saying 50 miles. You are going from there to there. Within reason, obviously not over the space of a year, but within one go, yes. I might be crawling.
Yeah.
I might be my legs might break, my whole energy might be, but and I'm not saying that mentally either. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, is it physically possible that I could do it? That's the way I'm interpreting it. But obviously mentally I would break down way earlier than you would, because you built yourself up mentally with doing these things. Physically, obviously, the same. But I'm now reading it like, you know, unless I die, you know, that's the ideal mindset. I'm not saying I would think like that, because I, you know, after five miles might be like, yep, done, you know. But is it possible? I think yes. Just because, I think, you know, anything's possible, like with the human body.
So this is funny, right? Because this is what I said about the wall in the marathon. I said you can tell people about the wall, and I can that I can tell you about the wall, and you'll be like, oh yeah, the wall. And this is kind of like you're almost displaying that. Not that I'm saying, dude, you haven't been to the wall, okay? Like I'm not trying to say it like that, but this is what is like good with like experience. So explaining the wall to people. Mate, everyone that I had it was like, yeah, but I could like still power through like the wall. If you know the wall's coming, then how bad can it be? But
I'm not saying it won't be bad.
No, but you are saying that you think
it's
physically
possible.
It's physically possible.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is you're underestimating just how bad in a place you can be.
No,
and like to the point where I think it probably is physically. There would have been people that have done 50 milers without training.
Yeah,
but it would be very, very hard, and I'm not sure like what percentage of people who say you got 100 people to attempt it. I'm not sure what percentage would make it. I'm sure some would, but it's like you'd be put through the biggest test of your life,
and I'm not disputing that.
You'd be like crying,
even like it could disable me for the next 5 years. I'm not saying I could physically run 100 miles now and it not massively negatively impact the rest of my life. I'm not saying that. I think it's just this idea of impossible. It's like it is possible, but it's not going to be.
It's not impossible.
I think that's what I'm trying to. So what do you think? Again, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm genuinely interested. What do you think would happen to me that would make me stop at 50 miles? So I went out now, 50 miles. What point do you think I would stop, and why?
What point is a good question. You could probably get to like maybe even marathon. You could get a good distance in. I think you won't be able to move anymore. Like your legs won't be able to carry you anymore. And like you say crawl. I don't think. I just don't think your body will just.
Do you think it would just shut down, like pass out type thing, or?
Yeah, like So one way I describe an ultramarathon, like 50 miler, it's so hard. It's another thing. It's like so hard to describe the feeling. It's like almost impossible to describe the feeling of what an ultramarathon feels like. So one way that I did describe it is it's like if you go to the gym, right, and you're doing leg day, and you do like a really heavy leg day, right? You've gone to the gym before, you've done leg days, you know, like how tough it can be. So you've done a really heavy one, you're like squatting, like
squats are the worst.
You're not squatting at your top, like, but you're squatting like a good heavy weight. You're in there for maybe 2 hours, like putting your legs through punishment. And you walk out the gym, you know, you like got jelly legs. You walk out the gym and then you have to run a marathon. That's like, to me, what it feels like. Like the marathon is the bit where you destroy your legs, and then you have to run another marathon after that where you're already broken down. Yeah. But the reason that you can get to, like, say for me, 20 miles where my legs are feeling pretty fresh is just because I've got like that endurance in there, like the strength in the legs.
I think this might be tapping into part of, especially my interest in it, but I imagine it's yours as well, is I just realised I'm showing this extremely tiny pencil.
That's a good effort. I don't think I've ever seen I've never got a pencil that small.
I stick with my pencil. That's a medium size. Some of them go very low.
That fair play.
Is this whole thing of pushing limits. Like, clearly what I'm interested in this line of questioning is how far, and you've gone, and we're both experiencing now, you know, I'm running more and trying to, I'm nowhere near pushing my limits, but because you've gone out and you're at a stage now along the line where you're starting to realize physical limits that are actually there. I've never got there.
Yeah.
Any time in my life.
Yeah.
Apart from, obvious ones like, try to pick up massive dumbbells like this big, with running, I've never hit a point where I felt, I'm close to my limit.
Yeah.
So that will be a key thing here, key difference with us. And that's why maybe I'm more curious about what's possible. Or we're probably the same and curious about what's possible, but you have a more grounded view on it because you've been through it.
I just think, there's also a lot of things like experience with like nutrition, making sure you eat the right stuff. Like you might pass out, people throw up, people like become ill. So it's not just like physical in terms of like your leg muscles or whatever. Like you can get really ill like doing it. So you'd need at least some experience of like to make sure you were eating the right amount and stuff like that. If you were attempting a 50 miler, say today, you'd have to like you'd still have to put in some work because if you say, oh well, I could probably run a 50 miler now, and you didn't have any experience and you were including things like nutrition, fluids, stuff like that, then I think it would probably be. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but there's other aspects that come into it when you're running that far. Like the reason the second time was overall better is because I was more experienced with nutrition. I was more experienced. I was like very strict with how much I was like taking in. Every 5 kilometers, I'd eat an energy bar or drink a gel. I'd drink between aid stations. I'd try and drink like 1.5 liters of fluid, like make sure all my bottles were empty. And I was really strict with that because that's something. The reason that I broke down in the first one is because I got my nutrition wrong, and I was like, I wasn't taking in enough fluid at the start. So once I was like too dehydrated, then my legs just basically like that's why you cramp up and your legs just fall apart because like imagine like you squeezed out all that fluid out of your muscles. They're just like raw. But
I find that, and I know you've said the same, but I find that fascinating as well. Like, when David Goggins talks, that 100 miler, I mean, that was a real amazing read in the book. I mean, most of it is. But like, I found it fascinating, and inspiring, all the horrible shit that happened to his body. I loved how in detail that he and the ghostwriter described how much like damage he was doing. Like in that 100 miler, he was like pissing blood. His toes were all mangled.
He shit himself.
And like
still had to run for
like this isn't. And I think that's what fascinates. Like on a more societal level, what we think our limits are. It's like, well, if you don't mind looking fucking horrible and destroying like maybe the rest of your year and maybe your body permanently. You can do a lot more than you think. And I think that's what interests me. But yeah, I'm not saying I could actually, because that's why I'm asking you, because you have had
I just think there's no point. Like
No.
you could,
No.
but it would just be like, it's just like very illogical to do it.
Yeah.
Because it would just not be worth
not advocating for it.
But I mean, it's an interesting question to be fair. But it is like the right point. Like I know that the way I train is I train that way to like limit the fear and limit the pain on the day as much as I can. I don't want to leave like I don't want to leave it to chance where I'm like, I think I've probably done enough, but we'll see how it goes, because I know that when it turns, if it turns after 2 hours instead of after 5 hours, then I have to spend the next 10 hours of my day like wanting to cry. Whereas when I did the 50 miler, the last one, it was probably like a 3-hour period of like real like torture, and then the rest was like manageable. So I know that I just like try and limit
you want a life outside of running as well.
Yeah. That's what my dad always says to me as well. Like he said it about the 100 miler. Like make sure you don't like break yourself too much. Yeah. Because like I said, I did that the first time, and I was limping for about 4 months the first time. So like it was too much. Sweet.
I think I'm gonna have to change the camera batteries soon, but
okay.
I'll ask one more question about this.
Okay.
Let me just check. Yeah, we're good for the last question. What scares you most about this 100 miler, and what scares you least? And when I say least, maybe start with least. What scares you least? I don't mean like, oh, the leaves on the tree. I mean like stuff that usually would scare people about this. What actually doesn't actually phase you quite as much, but what are you most scared of?
So what scares me least probably is the actual route itself.
Right.
So the 50 mile, basically any ultramarathon, it's a lot of elevation, and the elevation is what kills you.
Right.
The elevation, like, it's the quads. It's like going uphill. It puts so much pressure on your legs. That's what does you in. Whereas this one, I basically have chosen like the easiest 100 miles in terms of elevation to take. It's called the Thames Path 100. So it's next to the Thames for 100 miles from London to Oxford. So that's like a variable that's taken out of it because the hills is like really like it's just what's going to destroy your legs. But that might pose a different problem where maybe like different muscles in my legs from being too flat might be destroyed or whatever. But yeah, the route is like not the bit that doesn't scare me. It's a good route. I like it. Should be as comfortable as a 100 miler can be, I think. And then the thing that does scare me is the pain.
Yeah.
Without being so dramatic.
How intense it is and how long it will be for and things like that.
Yeah, it's when I've done the 50 milers, you're like literally just like swearing at yourself. Like I think I've told you before where I'm just like, you fucking idiot. Like just having a go at yourself for even doing it during it. And that would be like halfway through. Just like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done. Like, why am I doing this? So the idea of adding another 50 miles on top of 50 miles, like I it's the same thing with like the wall for me. I can't comprehend what that will feel like. Realistically, there's a chance that I might not finish. I'd almost say it's like 50-50.
Does the pain scare you more than the failure? Or do they both?
Yes. The failure doesn't scare me.
Okay.
Because 100 miles is 100 miles. I could fail and I've run 70 miles, 60 miles. It's still a good effort. It's more of the challenge. And like, it's not like it's the last 100 miler I can ever run. And if anything, maybe if I fail, it'll like keep me going and I'll want to like, it'll become like more of a thing. So I'm actually surprisingly not scared of it as much. I was probably with the 50 miler because I thought it was doable. And I think no one's going to have a go if I don't. No one would have had a go if I didn't finish the 50. But 100 miles, no one's going to be like, oh, you only ran 70 miles. You know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, fair play. And I will be gutted. But I know from following like famous ultramarathoners, it happens. It happens to all of them. It happens to the top of the pile ultramarathon runners. It might just be a bad day. Your body's not working. Your body's not. I've been lucky. The 250 milers that my body has like been having a good day really, but it might just not. But the pain is it's gonna. I mean, it's gonna be like 24 hours of running.
Do you think there's some people saying, but I don't know if David Goggins says this, but some books are like, you know, or just, I guess it's more sort of quotes or whatever, that pain is in your head and all this sort of stuff. Well, technically it is, but do you think that pain is something you can, with a lot of mental training, get over? You can.
Yeah. But
is the pain still there?
Yeah. So that's, what's great about ultramarathon running is like I said, there's different aspects that are like added on top of the fact that you're running, and the experience of things like nutrition and stuff like that are massive. But what they say like about ultramarathon is it's like 90% mental. So I've been there a few times now. So when I came up to this 50, when obviously I had that terrible bit in the middle, but let's say the last 10 miles after the euphoria was obviously really, really tough. But you learn how to deal with it mentally, like the self-talk.
Can you make the pain go away, or can you only become more okay with the pain?
You can become okay with it. Right. So like the last 3 or 4 miles of the ultra, it's like slowly downhill, but obviously you're at the end. So for that last bit, I was like, just go, just run. Like the pain's there. Obviously, I've read books and listened to podcasts. You have to, the thing you have to do, and it's another variable that people probably don't put into consideration. You have to like accept the pain. You have to just accept it for what it is. But it's you can very easily, it can win. It can like win the mental battle. You can very easily be overwhelmed by it, and it will literally like consume you, and you'll just want to cry. You'll want to just like lie down in a ball and cry. And that's kind of what happened to me when I attempted my first marathon in that first year. Like I hadn't experienced it before, and like it really mentally got to me. So you can manage it mentally. You can basically just tell yourself that you have to accept it. You just have to tell yourself it is what it is. Like, you know, just keep going. I always tell myself, just keep going. Even the bit during the middle, I was like repeating for a bit, like, I don't feel any pain. I was just saying it to myself. And that actually does work. I don't feel any pain. I don't feel any pain. I don't feel any pain. Just like having you've got to have the right mental, you've got to have a positive outlook on it. So when we got to the aid stations, or if you're talking to someone out there, I was always like cracking jokes, like trying to just keep in like a good mood. Because you see people on there who are literally having like, I was having a terrible, like worst day of my life, but people are like, you can see the people who have been like consumed by it, and their faces, they've just gone, they're gone. So it's just about managing it. You learn how to manage it. You learn how to accept it more, because it's really hard to accept. Like, it's really hard to accept that that's how you feel. It's you just don't want to be doing it anymore. My dad calls it the Gollum voice. That's that little, that's also the sick thing about running and long distance running. There's two minds in your mind. And like, obviously we listen to, we have like our thoughts and like, but there's like two voices, and there's one voice which is telling you, stop running, do this, and you have to like actually like fight against yourself in your brain, like in like long distance running things. You have to like argue with yourself. And it's, I don't know if it's like the ego versus the whatever it is, but there's like a battle going on mentally in your brain. One's telling you to stop, and then one's telling you, ignore that guy, keep on going. And that's just like experience, like learning how to, it's called the pain cave. I don't know if I've ever told you about that.
No.
So in the ultramarathon world, the place is called the Pain Cave. So there's the wall in the marathon. The Pain Cave is where you live. You'll always visit the Pain Cave during an ultramarathon. And you're like, if you know about the Pain Cave, then you're like, okay, I'm in the Pain Cave now. And then you can like kind of accept that this is the Pain Cave. This is where I'm living. And like different people have different techniques. Like one of the most famous ultramarathoners, Courtney Dauwalter, her technique is she says that she imagines herself chiseling out like new rooms in the Pain Cave, because she's visited there again, so she's revisiting the Pain Cave. So she says like, so I imagine I'm chiseling out new corridors in the Pain Cave, and that's how she deals with being there. Like she accepts it, and she now is at the point where she like looks forward to visiting the Pain Cave. But that's all like positive, like you're just having a positive mindset about it. And for people who haven't been there before, you get there and you're just like, the Pain Cave. So it's just like that really. So I just know I'm gonna be spending a long time in the Pain Cave, more than I ever have, and I think that could like just mentally break me. Like that's the scary bit. So yeah. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be. Okay, well, let's sort these batteries out.
Yes.
And we'll crack back on.
Sleep on your own. tombstone thinking, are we awake? Stay on your own, what a way to woo the lonely. Only pray by my tombstone. I was tombstone thinking, are we awake? Up, stroke the gods down, wake the gods up. Don't hold your cards up, hold your cards down. Leave the gods in peace, or the leaves will drown. Piece apart the gods and take them up to town on your own. Cause yeah, we need dumbstruck and we need the company. Will make you sleep on my tombstone. I'm a tombstone slipping into the grave.
Okay. I don't know how I'm going to transition the breaks,
Okay.
but break over.
Break over. Yeah.
We're back into it.
Back.
So we were talking about mindset, and you were talking about the pain cave.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever found, because so much of this it seems to be is mindset. Do you get much benefit from meditation? Have you ever tried working on your mindset directly? And do you see how that could help with running, or not really? Or do you feel like you get enough from running and how that tests your mindset?
Meditation is something that I'm interested in,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how to take the first step into meditation, really.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's something that you could advise me of. Do you meditate?
Sorry, that sounded sarcastic.
Do you meditate, mate? Huh? Coming at me
Do
with
you
all,
even
do you
meditate?
meditate? Do you? Put your money where your mouth is, huh?
People who meditate don't believe in money. I have a bit more of a complex sort of approach to meditation, in terms of, not complex, it's just I don't think I get much benefit out of the sort of standard sort of sitting down, focusing on your breath sort of thing. Again, I haven't pushed myself with it in terms of doing it consistently for a very long time. So I imagine someone who has meditated, like properly thrown themselves into it, would be able to say, well, you need to really go for it. But I sort of wonder, I will get back to my view as well, but
Okay.
It was interesting because you said, I don't really know the first steps. I imagine someone saying that about running. So do you think that's an excuse that you're saying about meditation? Or do you think you genuinely don't know the first steps? Because we've talked about it before, a few years ago.
Yeah, about meditation.
Yeah, you asked me about it.
Yeah, so I always am interested in it. But what I tell myself, and maybe it's the truth, maybe it's not, but I think it is the truth, is that running to me is meditation, especially because I don't listen to like music when I run or anything. The 50 miler, I think I listen to music for maybe an hour of the 10 hours. So running is like a bit of an escape in that sense, because say if you've had a day of work or whatever, you've had a long day, you're constantly thinking, you're being cognitive, you're using your brain for the whole day at work. It's a nice release to just, you can feel your brain like unknotting. Or what I feel my brain like unknotting during my run. So like it's really good which doesn't happen very often, but if say something's made you really angry and you go out for a run, it like you have that time to then look through it with your brain and work it out and kind of unknot that thing that's stuck. So I tell myself that running is meditation for me, because it's something where I'm basically not getting any input really into my brain. I'm not getting any screen time or anything. It's just me, my breath. On paper it's basically the same thing, like breathing, not having any internal or external information coming in, and just having that time to think. But I am interested in meditation. I'm not sure if it would make a difference in running, but maybe it would.
It sounds like, because I remember I think it was like 2017 you first contacted me about meditation, and the way you're speaking now, and this is not supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing, it doesn't seem like you're that fussed. Because the way, if someone were to say this the same about running in the same way, like I'm interested in running, I'm interested, I see it can be beneficial, then you'd be like, they're not going to go on a run. Do you know what I mean? So I'm interested, do you think maybe it's like, what do you think is underneath that? Do you think you don't see it actually being that beneficial? Do you think you get enough mind training from running that you don't need meditation as well?
I think that I've tried it before, meditation, and I just didn't really get it, really. I think if there's something that can like add or just make life better, because people say, like I probably say about running, is that like meditation is so important, you should do it every day, and there's people who are really like staunchly believe that. So if people believe that, then maybe there is something that I need to, like, there is a benefit that's there. So I understand that, but I think for me, maybe I just see it as like a bit of a waste of time. The actual act of meditation, I don't know if I will. I just don't know if I can ever get to that place where I'll be like, I'm going to sit down and meditate for half an hour. But I understand that there's a possibility that it could make just general life better if you've got more like mindfulness. But I think the running does definitely serve as some sort of meditation, 100%. I
think it's interesting what we personally go for, because we all know these certain things, like meditation, it's good to meditate, it's good to run, or it's good to eat healthy. But how much do people actually fully take it on the board in the same way that you have with running, and other people will do with other aspects of their lives? For me, meditation, I feel I would like to advocate for meditation, what people understand of it, because I think it's what it can do for people is important, and I think that's what running points to for you. I would say, under the umbrella of mindfulness, I would say that I'm much more for mindfulness, whatever that means. Clarity. I think overall clarity is the value. I've got sort of like a holy trinity of different values that are the real top ones for me. Okay. And clarity is one of them. And that's clarity of your inner world. It's clarity of situations. I think I realized a few years ago, and it's maybe a bit of a Buddhist thing or a mindfulness thing, that clarity transcends positive and negative. And these sort of philosophical words, whenever I hear other people say them, I just unless I've had the experience or the practical application, then I just feel a little bit like you're just saying stuff. It just sounds nice. It's poetry. But I genuinely realised that. I genuinely realised that having clarity of a situation means that I feel that it's difficult to explain. There's a feeling that's beyond positive.
Yeah,
it feels like I know what this situation is. I know who I am in this moment, and this is how I'm going to move forward. And it sounds really boring, but in some moments that can be absolutely so light.
Yeah.
So for me, whatever ways we can get that clarity is great. And I get clarity a lot. I guess what I've thrown myself into is questions.
Okay.
So this is a big part of why I started the podcast and why I'm interested in, because I think what I found with myself is when I ask myself the right questions, then I get clarity. And sometimes there'll be something going on for months, years, will be happening in the background, a question that needs to be asked. And I'll give you an example, a really micro example.
Okay.
I've been waking up at like 2:30 in the morning for the last week.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm awake for like half an hour. A couple of days I was awake for a few hours.
All right.
And I was waking up really hot. And and I've got the fan on me as well.
Yeah.
I get very hot when I sleep.
Yeah, me too.
But it was too cold to put my toes outside for too long,
Yeah.
or to have limbs out.
Yeah.
But the contrast was too much. But this had just been happening, and I hadn't actually cognitively made that a thing. I was just like, I've been doing this thing, maybe it's this, maybe blah, blah, blah. But I hadn't really. But when I woke up in the middle of the night, I was like, I asked myself the question, why? It was something like, why am I too hot under the duvet? Just a simple question like that, which is, and for me, it's that levity of like, well, this is the question.
Yeah.
This is a question. This is what I'm trying to find. It might not even be a question. It might just be like hot under the duvet. It's the thing that you're like becoming cognizant of, conscious of. So that, and then I was like, and then the next day I started thinking about it, and now you saw an order today that is a new duvet. So it's a lower tog. So I've got a lower tog duvet because all these simple things. I mean, this is a very sort of practical thing.
Yeah. I get what you're saying though.
But that also works with like, why am I getting so angry?
Yeah.
Or why do I not get up when I want to in the morning? Why do I struggle to connect with my partner or mum or brother or whoever? So it's fundamental questions as well as little ones. So that for me is points to clarity.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing that works for me. But you can get clarity from running, you get clarity from meditation. So to answer your question the very long way around, I don't meditate in the traditional way, but I absolutely advocate mindfulness and ways to get clarity of what's going on within
100%.
you.
100%, yeah. The clarity is actually the word that I always use. I think we've even had discussions. I think we've had discussions about it before.
Yeah.
With me, it's weird, and I've understood it more as I get older. I think I can swing from extreme to extreme, and like ultramarathons is like a perfect example. Like I didn't have to. I could just started running. I don't have to. And the last 6 months, the last 9 months, I trained for an ultramarathon, ran a 50 miler, spent 3 months drinking, eating rubbish food, blah blah blah, and now I'm flipping it back into like a training mindset again. And I get that with clarity sometimes. I think I'm slowly getting better at it, but I can really swing from one side to the other where I can have I'll go through a period where I don't have much clarity. I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me and how I'm feeling. I'm just like, sometimes if you're in a mood, you can be swept up into the mood, and like even though if you're in a terrible mood and you're in a terrible mood, and really there's a decision that you can just get yourself out of it, but you don't want to, like, no. You're like, no, this is my mood, and I go through periods of that, and then I have I'll then have like a big moment of clarity where I realized like I kind of stopped myself and was like, wait, what am I doing? What's going on here? What am I doing? And then I'll go through a period of clarity where I try and keep things into perspective. So yeah, I've had that before. I think the issue is that I go through periods where I think I've fixed it. Like I found the secret.
Yeah,
and like
the silver bullet.
Yeah, you have the 3 months. Like I'm in it right now, where I'm like content. I don't have my brain. My inner monologue isn't going 1,000 miles per hour. I don't have all these insecurities or whatever. Like I'm very comfortable. And then after a few months, you think, "Oh, sweet! Like I've done it. Like that's it. This is the secret. I just need to do this. And I think that now, but I there's a chance that in 3 months I'll just go through a period of just like, just being wound up, or not even really wound up. I wouldn't necessarily be like more moody, but like I'll just be swept up by life, and then you're not paying attention to that stuff. A big one for me, which I didn't expect, and I've done this before, but this time is like probably for good, is that like even though I did post a picture on Instagram of this setup now, I deleted the app straight away. So I don't have like social media apps on my phone. I do have the account still, and I did that just because it started to seem a bit stupid to me. I was spending too much time on it, and the difference is like mental, and it's just one of those things that you do and you don't. You only know how it's affecting you until you've got rid of the variable. So that's one thing where I think that I actually think that's probably affected me since like Facebook started. You know what I mean? Like since like a mid to late teenager, without me realizing that it did, because now I've got rid of it. Like just all this nonsense, all this noise has just gone. I was speaking to a couple of the boys yesterday, and I was telling them this, and they both like made a bet that they'd delete Instagram and they wouldn't go back on it, because like the effect of it is mental. Actually, like it's
in both senses of the word.
Yeah. Very clever, Dan. But yeah, not getting too much into like social media, the good points and the bad points. But clarity is definitely important. It's just maintaining it for a long period of time. Maybe if I decided to meditate every day, that would help that. But I think I get a lot out of the running, because running you get clarity as well. You like pick apart. You just naturally do, because you have nothing else. You have nothing else to think about. So like a meditation state where your brain is like thinking on its own, and you're like kind of dipping in and out to what you're thinking about. That happens a lot during like training, running. Like you go into a flow state, and you'll be like, I've been running for 20 minutes and I haven't even noticed.
Do you discover stuff? Do you like go, that's what I should do sometimes on a run? Like, do you like if there's been something on your mind for a while and it just becomes clear and you're like, it's just that? Do you get that?
I don't have an example, but because it's just it's so, and social media is probably what plays a part in that, because there's no there's like only distractions. You can distract yourself for 18 hours of the day, however much you sleep. You can just distract yourself for the rest of
20 hours of the day.
20 hours of the day. But like you can always be distracted from the moment you wake up to the moment, and it could be wake up, put the radio on, get ready, put the TV on, listen to a podcast.
Reminds me of the Bo Burnham song, a little bit of everything all of the time. It is literally that.
It's literally. So like it's weird to sit in a room in silence. I don't really do that, but I'll go for a run every day, and then you feel it's like white noise. I picture it as like, especially when I go through these periods of unclarity, it's like aggressive white noise that doesn't go away. But on like a standard day, the white noise will build. So I'll wake up and I'll work, and it'll slowly build and build and build. My brain will just have too much going on, and then you go for a run and you just like see it kind of melt away. So it's probably a similar thing. I get mine out of that. And same with the social media, that like adds to the white noise. So I think because I've got rid of that, it like the level is lower now. So it's kind of, but I would like to, if it's something that can be added to like your repertoire of things, like say if someone who does meditate but doesn't exercise, they know that exercising could also add to that. So like I'm aware that it could add to what making your experience of life better, but I just haven't got around to doing it.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like you're motivated to either, if I'm honest. I mean, the way you are speaking, it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's something that you might do at some point.
Yeah.
But you're not, I think there is and that's, I think what my point, I think we're very much on the same page with this. I think we advocate for it. And I think as a society, we should be doing more stuff that's like meditating or meditating itself. I definitely would encourage anyone who was even interested in meditating, who didn't have any sort of self-aware or had very little self-awareness or very clarity or like were going down rabbit holes, I'd like do it, the same with running, do it, but I think if you're at a point where you're quite happy with things in general but you still got a lot of things that you don't feel like you're improving on enough, or then I think it's a case of finding what provides you clarity. And I think clarity would be the pinnacle thing to aim for.
Yeah.
Meditation is just a thing along the way that you can do.
Yeah.
It could be running, it could be sitting, like I do, sit down with a notebook and just ask myself questions, just think it out. It can be, there's millions of ways. Asking people, the one thing I did a while ago was, I mean, again, this is questions, but asking people what they think my weaknesses are.
Okay.
Because I think in the end, what I found useful in the
talks too much.
Yeah. With the interesting thing with with meditation, or part of it is,
I don't think I could ask that question. I know. I think I have a level of self-awareness where I know, but it's horrible for someone to also say it to you. Normally, I like find it funny because everyone knows like what my weaknesses are. Like we could all say like I'm basically a dick. No, but I don't think I could ask that question, because what if they say something that you don't know and then you're like, oh.
But again, you've got to bring it back to an analogy that you're comfortable with, because if people said, what if you went on a run and you break your leg, or what if you go on a run and you feel like you realize you're weak in certain area, your lung capacity isn't very good, or your legs aren't that fast. It's ego.
Yeah, it is ego. Yeah,
and you put that in any sort of self progression situation, and it's the same. So with asking people, I find it a more effective way to find out what I'm doing than the meditating. Okay. Sometimes, not all the time. There's a place for some form of meditation, and some just taking a moment and taking a few minutes just to be still. But it's only a very small part of what I do towards this sort of clarity thing. So because it's like when people take pictures of themselves as they're building muscle, for example, so they can see the progression.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you don't notice how much you've changed. Whereas other people do, especially if you haven't seen them for a few weeks or a few months. Yeah. So asking other people what they think, and different types of people, what they think your weaknesses are, you're going to get a clearer view. It might not be the clear view you want, and it might not be the one you expect, and it's painful, we're talking about pain, but it's another way to get clarity. I am doing that. That's not good. I didn't want to admit it, but
I get that. I think it's definitely important to be true to yourself. I try and be as self-aware as possible, which is a term, a sort of mindfulness, because you've always got to be aware of what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are. It's just quite cutting if someone tells it to you. Especially if you don't know it. I'm sure people could tell me stuff that I don't know.
This actually, I mean, this is jumping forward in my list of questions here. In my clipboard.
Very professional.
But I was actually going to ask you about the mindset, bringing it to other areas of your life and how much that impacts. And this sort of ties in. So this sort of like, I don't know if you'd characterize it better than me, but this sort of like pushing through the pain thing, doing it, getting out of your comfort zone, goal-driven sort of thing, mind strengthening. Do you bring that to other areas of your life, or do you think you compartmentalize it?
I would say that it took a while for it to like work with other parts of my life. I almost thought that it would be like a cheat code, like, right, you do this, and then like it just like everything else in your life, you're like super focused and driven and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's more of like a gradual, it like gradually adds to the other parts of your life. Is
that a conscious gradual change in terms of you consciously have another area of your life where you'll take the same mindset, or is it more like you're just doing the running and mindset and that's what you're doing, and gradually it will naturally filter out?
Yeah, it just like naturally filters out. Like before I did the first 50 miler, I thought, you know, maybe if I'm in a tough position, I can go back to like, mate, you ran 50 miles, like you shouldn't be like complaining about this or whatever. Like it could be anything, something like work, something that's like you're doing work and it's a tough thing that you're sorting out. Something could go wrong, you know, anything. I almost did expect for it to be very soon. Well, just quickly, I'd have like this, like, hey, if you've done that, man, you can do this. It's easy.
Do anything, yeah.
But I think it's like another learning thing. Like you learn. I think I deal with stressful situations better because of it. But I'm also not sure if that's just because a side effect of growing up.
Sure.
Like, I think the more adult you become, the more you are able to handle stressful situations because they're like put on your plate more, because you have to like run your own life, and you have things at work where you have like certain responsibilities. But I do think the one big one is I think it has affected positively, and I'm not saying I had a massively low self-esteem, but I think it has affected that positively. I think I'm just like more at ease, and it's not like I don't sit there thinking like I ran 50 miles, dude. Like it's I just like, it's like you've proven something to yourself.
Yeah.
And I haven't run any of it for anyone else. No one's challenged me. No one said, nah, you can't do that. You know, like people say, oh, people said I can't, so I could. Like, no one's challenged me. No one's told me to do it, and no one's challenged me to do it. I've just done it to almost like discover something about yourself. And there's a lot of power in doing something like a 50 miler, because like I said before, you go through this horrendous thing that you only experience, and you get through it, and it's just a bit like I do have like some power in me, you know what I mean? Like I have some strength in me. I'm not just like a guy who's just like floating through life doing nothing. Like there's this like power that I can tap into. And I think that just gives you a little bit of like self-confidence, but not like outward self-confidence. We've spoken about it before, where like, say if you're in a conversation with someone, but in your brain, you're like, your brain's kind of whirring at, like you're like conscious of yourself, you're conscious of them, of the situation. Like, I think that has died down a bit more, but I don't really know specifically why. I think it's just because I've done something so extreme that like I'm proud that I've done it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
100%. And I think it's very easy on the surface to think that someone's self-confidence is good. I mean, you're a good-looking guy.
Cheers, mate. Hey, you're not too bad yourself.
And everyone watching this, I'm sure in the comments will disagree with me. But
any of my friends will anyway. They won't be happy with you if you said that. All the boys, they'll be mad.
But like, what happens on the surface is very easy to think that people, you know, their self-confidence is good. And obviously you can't gauge your own self-confidence against others. But yeah, I think it's absolutely an amazing thing to be proud of, and moving forward with that. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to cushion that, because I'm going to go into more challenging questions.
Okay,
now.
no, good.
So
yeah.
I want to let you know that it is something to be very proud of, and it's an amazing thing. But I was wondering why you don't consciously put this mindset into other areas of life. You said it sort of naturally steams out, and it's not a bad thing that you haven't done that. I'm just wondering why you haven't, or maybe it's something that you hadn't thought about, or
I have. I can't explain it. The thing about like say the story of listening to David Goggins and like having that moment, it's you can kind of relate it to someone who wants to be the world's best javelin thrower. Like I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that I'd want to run ultramarathons, but something just clicked. And it's quite hard because if you have something that you're passionate about, there's almost no explanation for it. And I don't think it's really possible to learn, transfer that passion onto something that maybe you're just not wired to be as passionate about. So people have different levels of interest. Like there'll be things that you're like football. Do you have any interest in football?
I love not watching football.
Those Manchester Reds. Woo! You know what I mean? I couldn't necessarily transfer like a passion for like doing filmography or filmography is not the right word, is it? I'm trying to sound clever here.
Yeah,
videography. That's it. I couldn't it wouldn't. You could, but you probably couldn't force like the transition of like a passion from one thing to another.
And there's a million passions out there.
Yeah. That's the thing that I think it bleeds into, because you can't force yourself. Like I said, I don't really understand why. Like it's just like flipped something in my brain. There's never really been. Well, there has been some things, but nothing that's never really happened where like I've suddenly thought like that's what I want to do, and like I'm obsessive to the point that I like did all that training, ran all that distance over months, weeks, months, years to get there. So yeah,
but I guess what I'm interested in is the areas of life that so not like other passions like filmmaking or art or anything. I guess it's the other areas of life that you feel like you want to get stronger in because it's having a negative impact.
Yeah.
So for example, like some people might, I mean, I very doubt this is a thing or there's any people in the world that are like this, but let's say someone was an ultramarathon runner and they brought their mindset to that, but they're a raging coke addict. So that's an extreme example, but that, I just wonder if and there might not be areas in your life that you feel like you are really detrimental to your well-being.
Yeah.
But are there areas, and if that's to a personal question, that's fine. You can speak more generally, but are there areas you feel like this mindset actually will benefit, not because out of a passion or just like, oh, this would be nice, more about this is going to help something that is a thorn in my style or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when we did the first podcast, like the whole thing was about like how I'd say that I used to I didn't have like an alcoholic problem, but I used to say just drink maybe too much. And then I went through the extreme of training a lot and cutting all that out and being really strict with everything. But what I've learned, maybe it's just me, what I've learned is that you shouldn't like try to cover all bases very strictly, because I think I just don't think it works. I think you need to be sensible, obviously. Like I still drink alcohol, not that much, but I wouldn't be like, I don't think it really is beneficial to use that level of discipline in every aspect of your life. Obviously there will be people who have like stuff that's really badly affecting them. But I've found over like the years of like testing, like, cause I've gone from one extreme to another, testing and just maybe just accepting that there's like, there can be leeway in things. Like not everything has to be, you don't have to have like be like an army cadet in your life, you know what I mean? Because then some of your that drains away some of your happiness as well. That's the issue. Like with being, I was probably around that time I was making myself miserable. Like there was a bit during the first podcast, I was training so much, I like got my body fat down to like really low. Like I like looked muscly and I had like a 6-pack. But then you see that when you're so disciplined with that, you're cold all the time. My mood was horrendous. Not horrendous, maybe that's too strong, but like it affects your mood. Just all those things, like being overly disciplined. So I think there's like a bit in the middle where you can find a balance and you can do stuff you enjoy, but you don't have to like, if you can have vices, You don't have to get rid of all your vices as long as they aren't like really badly affecting your life.
Yeah.
You can keep them, just manage them if they can go bad.
Yeah.
Manage them well. But I've tried both sides, and I found that doing nothing obviously doesn't work. Trying to cover every base doesn't work because you're just like a robot to me.
This is interesting to me because I'm interested in your. I don't want to reveal anything about you. I have this thing with the podcast. I don't like to reveal anything about you without you saying, and I expect the same vice versa. But what are your views on balance? Because I know that we've had this discussion before, but I don't think we've actually hashed it out at the podcast. And if we did, it was probably the one that was lost. But I don't think even then, I don't think I really went into it properly with you, because I think this is a key area where I want to get some clarity, because I feel like the definition of the word can maybe get lost, but I feel like we've disagreed with balance in life and your views on that, because I know David Goggins has got views on balance and stuff. You did just mention it there. So what are your views on having a balanced life, and how does that tie in with running and these other views that you've got?
So my view, it's changed. I am now, I'm now moving into more balanced.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm not in the middle. I'm at the there's obviously laziness. Let's say laziness, balance, discipline. Let's say that's the scale. I'm between balance and discipline.
Right.
I know, like, we sent the video and Goggins is talking about like people like balance, blah blah blah. But I've learned that that doesn't apply to me, because I've tried it. I've tried to be disciplined, and it then is actually, like, probably for most people works like is detrimental. It works against you, because being super disciplined like gets in your head. So maybe it wouldn't be the debate you were maybe expecting, but it is something that's changed, like with mindfulness and thinking about stuff. I'm slowly moving back towards balance, because I've tried all three ways. Yeah. But I've also tried the extreme of balance, where, like, when I used to go to the gym before running, which I think I said in the first episode, where I'd train like 5 days during the week, and then on a Friday I'd buy a crate of beer and I'd just drink beer for like the whole weekend. That's like an extreme, because it's like you're doing, like, you're training hard and then you're just letting yourself go. Work hard, play hard type thing. Yeah. My balance is more like just everything, just like be sensible with everything. You don't have to like eat 2 pizzas a day for a month and then run 100 miles every week or something like that. Like, just keep everything like at a level. But that's like still something I'm working out. But that's where I'm at right now. But it might change again.
Oh, okay. That's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
That would have been the thumbnail.
I know.
Dan,
because I was.
Yeah.
But
so what was your view then before? If I brought this whole balance thing up with you 2 years ago, what do you think your response would have been?
It would have probably been it would have just probably been like, be disciplined with your life. Grind would have been the word, like grind, like all day, every day, grind, get after it.
So you saw balance more as a weakness?
Yeah, a little bit.
As an excuse almost?
Yes, but I still... There are still excuses in balanced, and I'm still on the disciplined edge of, like, I think people can be bitches very easily, and and that sounds really harsh after I said it, but that's maybe I view people who are like on the lazy side of the new scale we've made up, lazy, balanced, discipline.
Can I change the scale slightly?
Okay,
because I think balance, the way you're saying it, is almost like lukewarm good. Because if you've got lazy, which is a negative, I think I'd rather put 2 positives on either side of the scale.
Okay.
Because I just feel like having a balanced life isn't more towards negative than discipline.
No.
I think it's more, maybe the other thing could be like go with the flow, or I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm saying I'm balanced. I don't necessarily think it's a negative. But yeah, it's tough. But then things with like fitness, I'd say I'm disciplined. There's just things. It's just all over.
Yeah.
Some things
yeah.
I'm disciplined with. Some things I'm not. Some things I've worked out are probably more important. Some things less.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mindset like 2 years ago was like grind every day, like get all the energy you can out, like go to the gym, run, do this, do that. Work, like it just wasn't. It doesn't work really for the majority of people because you just wear yourself out in the end.
So you've placed. Is it fair to say you've placed more importance on your life outside of running? In the last couple of years, because
that was
you
another
can see how a mindset that's too extreme in that sense can affect other areas of your life.
Yeah, because that was one thing training for like during the pandemic, or not during the pandemic because that made sense, but I've done it before where if I'm training for something, my social life, for example, is just gone, and I've just kicked out. I don't have time for that. I need to focus on this. Whereas now I'm trying to trying to get it all in together, not squeeze it in, but just don't take it too seriously. Like today, like we're doing this in the morning, and I'll go for a run later today. Whereas like before, it'd be like I've got to get a gym session in, I've got to work out, and then I've got to eat the right food, and then I've got to go for a run. I don't have time to do that and that because I've got to do this.
Well, this podcast has taken most of the day. So you've got more of an excuse now not to go on a run.
I know. I actually do.
It's not actually morning anymore. It's mid-afternoon.
I know.
Coming into late afternoon.
I know. Well, that's going to be the same thing I have to go through every day.
Yeah.
Arguing with yourself, like, can I just not do it today?
Yeah. Okay, so I've got another area that I find quite interesting that I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on. Would be... And it's in the same sort of vein of what we've been talking about. So social pain.
Okay.
So
here we go.
Yeah. So you know, talking about the pain and stuff with running the pain cage and stuff. Do you feel that could be applied to social pain? So I'm not talking about like, you know, really serious stuff. I'm talking like the awkwardness. I guess it's an awkwardness of going to a club by yourself for the first time where there's lots of people that know each other, or turning up. I'm just trying to think of other things. I guess awkward social situations or standing in front of like public speaking. Do you apply the same mindset to social situations, or do you find that pain, let's not call it pain, that awkwardness more difficult?
I don't. I think I find it easier now.
Right.
And like I said, it's a byproduct, I think, of like running ultramarathons, stuff like that, and maybe again just becoming an adult. But I'm trying more to get myself into situations like that, or just test yourself. But I think I'm generally more at ease than I was, but I'm not sure if that is just becoming an adult. I feel like it's kind of a bit of becoming an adult as well, because as the years go by, you just start to just care less about what other people think. I think.
I'm a bit in two minds about this whole becoming an adult thing, and whether that has is sort of a right, and I agree it is a part of it, but some people stay the same like their whole life, and they don't, like, some people don't want to challenge their views, and some people don't necessarily seem like they want to progress in a lot of areas. You know, if there's people that you know, everyone has different backgrounds, so it's not a judgmental thing. I'm not judging these people. I'm just saying that it's interesting to me how different people approach life. But if someone, you know, has a really bad diet, they don't do any exercise, they don't really go out much, they just don't really talk to other people, they don't try to do better in their job or whatever they're sort of, and they're sort of just in this loop of doing the same stuff over and over. I'm I've forgotten what my question was. I don't know how that ties in with what we were saying.
Social anxiety. People who are
Do you think that
people can train to be less?
How do you whatever area of life it is, how do you as a person tap into something that's gonna because we were talking about becoming adults. I'm not sure, because some people will have bad diets their whole life, and they'll have the same response to you about meditation. They'll say, yeah, no, I should probably not eat a cake a day, and I sound very judgmental, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is I'm not sure if becoming an adult is a natural thing to change. I think it seems to be part of it has to be a mindset as well. To want to progress.
I just think and it might sound like I'm being a dick, but I think the majority of people, well, maybe not the majority, but there's a big percentage of people that just don't think about, like, aren't mindful of any of that. They just kind of go through life. They don't question. Say it's someone who is unfit, like they don't question. Maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. I think there's a lot of people who just kind of just go through without thinking about that.
How do you think you tap past that? I know obviously this isn't like a black and white question and expect you to know all the answers, but if there is someone that, like, I really don't want this to sound judgmental, so let's imagine it's someone we both really, really care about equally. Okay. And we love to their core. No, we both love them. Okay. And we both, we know someone and we both love them intensely. And let's say we were friends since we were like 5 years old or whatever. And they had an aspect of their life that was, it could be any of the things we talked about, that was really holding them back. Like, how does someone get from a mindset of sort of like being like, yeah, no, that's good for me. Let's say they were like eating way too much crap. Let's just use that as an example. And they're like, oh yeah, I know I should eat more, good stuff and more leaves, but I love cake and we'll see. Yeah, maybe next week. Yeah. How do you even tap into that? And maybe not from our point of view, maybe it's from their point of view, or as a society. How does that change sort of switch into place?
The tough thing is about that is that I think people are wired a certain way. And I think for the majority of the times, like, we couldn't do anything to change someone. It has to come from within. Like, they have to like get to the end of their tether. Say if it is like unfit or they want to lose weight, they have to get to the end of their tether where they have like that moment. Like when I watched the David Goggins thing, where I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like, and you have to have. It kind of is a bit wishy-washy, but like you almost like an epiphany or like a moment where this is too much now. Like, it's probably the same like when I deleted social media, where I was like, you know what, this just doesn't make sense anymore. Like I'm at the end. So
what was that point for you?
It wasn't anything massive. It was just like I remember one day I was like scrolling through my Instagram. And firstly, I noticed that like all the things I was scrolling through was like a blue tick people, so like famous people.
Right.
So like I wasn't actually viewing any of the content of people I know, friends, anything. And then as I was scrolling through, I realized that half of these posts are adverts.
Right.
And then I was just like thinking about it. It's like I'm literally like spending my time being sold. I'm like spending my free time just being advertised to, basically. And I'm watching people's lives who I don't know. Like, I know they might have done something interesting. They might be a footballer or boxer or whatever. I don't know them. They don't know me. There's no impact in that regard. They might just live an interesting life. And that was just a moment where I was like, this is really dumb. Yeah. Like, this is really, really stupid. So I deleted all the blue ticks people.
But sorry to drill in. I'm just very interested. I know this is getting quite deep, but why do you think that moment came in? Why do you think it came in then? And what do you think triggered it?
I don't know. It was just like a moment of realization, like clarity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue with a lot of people, is that because if you're telling me every day, mate, you need to delete Instagram, like it doesn't really make a difference, because in my head I'll just be like, nah, it's fine, like I don't have an issue. What, like, it's not an issue, not that I had an issue with it, but like, you know, you need to eat greens, you need to eat healthily. Nah, it's fine, I don't need to. Like, I don't know, it's hard to get to that stage, because whenever it's happened to me, it's just like a moment where I've like decided like enough's enough, and I've switched into training or whatever. Because I've seen people try and do stuff, and then I don't know, if your heart's not in it fully, like if your heart's not really in it, like I have to do this, then it's just, you're gonna do it, you're gonna run for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then just fall back into those same patterns. So I don't know. I think I like, my train of thought with it is that people are like wired, and this is just from like analyzing myself. People are wired in a very certain way, and it's quite hard to like wire out of that. So I try and change stuff, but in line with how I'm wired to like think about things. Do you know what I mean? Or is that?
It sounds like a bit
like people
defeatist,
have a certain
though.
makeup. Like I didn't have a makeup to, like, I didn't run before, so I didn't necessarily have that makeup.
You were one of the last people I would have thought would be running 100 miles a few years ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think I'm like wired in a different way, in terms of like I said, I can be like extreme. Like it can flip from one to the other.
Sure.
So I think in terms of that, and I do actually have like a level of like intense discipline with certain things if I really get my head into it. So I think that in that sense, that's
there.
why it was beneficial to me to have this certain like part of my personality.
It just, for me, it sounds a bit defeatist. And it could be naive on my part. I'm very open for that being the case, but I think I have a lot more hope and belief in people's ability to change and everyone's ability to change.
Yeah.
There's certain, I know, so I see it more as like the chances diminishing, and like I did youth work, and I can see how when young people are experiencing abuse and neglect at a very young age, trying to make any nudge of a change in their behavior or their thinking is unbelievably difficult, because they see the world in a sort of flight or fight sense, because they had to. If you grow up in an environment where you've got an abusive parent or whatever, then, but I just feel, I guess it's the hopeful part of me, or the really wanting people to improve their lives, you know, and feel happier. But I really feel that the wiring can change, and that it's more, maybe, as I just see it, a bit more malleable than
I think you can just like divert your energy. Like, so there's a lot of examples of say famous musicians or artists or actors or whatever who have experienced trauma, and then Mike Tyson, for example, like beaten as a kid, like he was a loser, like he wasn't a loser, but like he was bullied. He experienced like extreme trauma in his household, and then someone discovered him, this guy with ridiculous genetics and all this pain. They changed the avenue. They like what's the word? Directed it. They kind of directed all this stuff through him into being a boxer, and he was probably dealing with the trauma through that, and he was probably dealing with his own self-esteem issues. He says it like he then wanted to become champion because he was dealing with all these issues that he had about being worthless and stuff like that when he was worthless, which obviously doesn't fix the problem, but I think you can use stuff like that you can channel certain things through. That's what they always say about boxers, why boxing's so good for the community, because it's normally in like places where there is loads of bad stuff going on, children like having bad stuff going on in their family. They discover the boxing gym, and then they find like an avenue to divert all that angst or all that anger or energy into something which is positive, making a career for yourself and being disciplined and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know.
Do you think you're a bit more skeptical about people changing because they're wired a certain way type thing?
I wouldn't say that. I just think people. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one because I've just seen people. I've tried to drill stuff into people before, and it just doesn't work. And then it's to the point where it's like I think they have to get to that stage like themselves. I can't say or do anything to make someone decide like I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna do this. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated one.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not just saying that people are wired a certain way and they can't do other things, but you just got to people just got to have to learn to use how they're set up to be beneficial, to like be positive. But it's a tricky one.
No, I do agree, and it's fascinating for me. I think one of the hardest things you can do in life, for me personally, is help people. I think because it's so difficult and it's so complex, and we struggle to help ourselves. So helping others is really, really, really hard. But I find that then it's more like a challenge, or it's fascinating for me to like unpick that more, because you can get through to people sometimes, and you can help people sometimes. And it can be like the David Goggins podcast for you. It can be having just a sentence someone says to you when you're at a party, or it can come out the middle of nowhere. And I'm just interested in that. And I guess from my point of view is you can, if we can make more of those moments happen, those moments of clarity, then we'll have a better society.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people. I think you can get your spark. What's the saying? The saying like being motivated is easy, being disciplined is hard. I think that's the saying. So like motivation is actually one of the easiest things to have. You can watch a video now and it's a little spark. Like Goggins, I watched that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go for a run. Little spark. But then you have to tend to that fire.
It's like the honeymoon period.
Yeah. The honeymoon period is it, because that's what happens. I've had the honeymoon period. So I had it the first time I tried to go running. And then I was like, oh, screw this, I don't want to do it anymore. I had it with the gym for years.
I have it with
until I was disciplined with it. So motivation is super easy.
That's really interesting.
But then once that initial like energy, that fire, that motivation goes, and you're stuck with, I've got to run 5 days next week, I've got to run five times the week after that, then that's where like the self-drive, self-motivation comes in.
So this ties in perfectly with one of my another area that I wanted to talk about, which was motivation. And so I've never heard it said like that before. It's really interesting that motivation is like the spark and the honeymoon period, and discipline. How do you, so let's use your terms for it, because I was going to ask, how do you motivate yourself?
Yeah.
But it sounds like motivation in that definition is more of a natural thing that you can't control, because it's like, and then you're off with it anyway. How do you get yourself, how do you, in those moments, in those hard days, get yourself from being really not wanting to leave the house, or really not wanting to go for a run, to get to the point where you are running? And to answer this, if you can think about the really hard days when it's the hardest, because then that will be it's a massive thing, a part of it. What's the word that Goggins used, not to bring it back to the Messiah. I can't remember what word he uses, but you basically have to accept and hold self accountability. That's what he says. Right. You have to be accountable to yourself. And if you my rule is, without telling myself every day, if I tell myself I'm going to do something, you either do it because you told yourself you're going to do it, or like for me, I can be like harsh on myself. It's like, oh, you're a loser. Like you're just like, what's the point? What's the point in even trying? What's the point in saying you're going to do all this stuff and you're falling at
one of the very small hurdles. And you've just got, for me, it's almost like sacred when you've told yourself you're going to do something like that. When you've actually said, like, so I said, I'm going to train for this. And I'm even on a weekly basis where I'm going to say I'm going to run, last week ran 30 miles. I told myself I was going to run 30 miles. If I ran 29 miles, that would be a failure, like the week. To me, it's like I've run 0 miles. And that's just, you've got to be accountable to the promises that you make yourself, because other people can make you promises, but you can't rely on someone, you don't know what motivations they have, etc. But when you made a promise to yourself, the only person you're letting yourself down, which is kind of sounds cheesy, is yourself. You've told yourself you're going to do it, so just do it. So I am like quite harsh to myself. I'm just like, don't be a bitch, basically. But I also have tricks to get around it. So say if I told myself today, it wouldn't work at the end of the week because I have to get this run in today to reach my weekly distance goal. Let's say on Tuesday, where it's easier to like scrimp on what you planned. Say I plan to run 8 miles, and I really I'm having just a tough day. I really don't want to do it. Like, it's just the worst thing ever. I've got to the end of the day. It's time to go for a run. I'll kind of like haggle with myself. I'm like, okay, mate, why don't you don't have to do it 8-9 miles. Just do 6 miles. Just do 5. Get out there, do 6 miles, get something in. Just get out the door. And I'll go through these debates with myself, and it's like, man, I just don't want to do any. It's like, just do 6. It's easy. You don't have to do the whole thing. I know 9 miles is long. It's going to take an hour or whatever, an hour and 15 minutes. And then pretty much every time I do that, I'll get out the door, and within 5 minutes, you're like, nah, I'll just do the whole thing. Right. And that's it. But you kind of have to you have to not trick yourself, but just convince yourself to do it, and give yourself some leeway of okay, you don't have to do that. You're having a tough day. You're feeling tired. You don't have to do that. You can do it tomorrow, that distance. But normally once I've got out the door, I'll just be like, you know what? I'll just do the whole thing. It's not that bad. But that's the main thing. That's why it can be quite tough sometimes with training, because if you're holding yourself accountable and you really don't want to do it, then it is like a battle of the mind. It's kind of what I had with the training for the last 50 miler. That's why I had a bit, it was just mentally I wasn't there, because I was being disciplined, but I just really just didn't want to. I wasn't in the right mindset. So I was forcing myself to do what I said I would, which in the end I did. But it can be tough. But that's the most important thing, I think. I think if you're lying to yourself, then just don't bother. Don't bother telling yourself you're going to do something. Don't bother just what's the point? You're literally just talking nonsense to yourself, and you're the only one that you can't lie to. So it's very it's very out in the open.
I guess that sort of ties in what I was going to ask, but I was going to ask what differentiates your mindset from, how do you get more accountable to yourself? How do you actually place importance on your own goals that you set yourself? Because a typical one is getting up in the morning. So if you've got someone who, if you're wanting to get up as soon as your alarm goes off every morning, you want to get up within, let's just say, a clear goal within the first 5 minutes, and every night you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get up tomorrow, and then every morning you wake up 20 minutes, you get out of bed 20 minutes later after you've woken up, and how do you place more importance in that voice? How does that voice get to a stage where you actually care what you've set yourself?
Well, that's interesting, because I obviously do that, and I don't get up when I want to. Right. So it's not saying that I'm fully accountable with everything that I do in my life. I think, it's probably something that I place maybe slightly less importance into. It depends. So do you think it depends? So do you think the importance you place on it will depend how disciplined you'll be? Because you were saying about the scale of discipline and balance. Getting up in the morning will be less disciplined for you, and you think the amount you're passionate about something will depend. So It's a tough one, but you just let yourself down, don't you? Like, we've all done it when you say, oh, I'm going to do this, and you just feel rubbish. So for me, with the, say if I was going to try and get up in the morning or whatever, it doesn't affect me as badly because I'm going to get up anyway. But I guess with running, you either do or you don't. And if I don't, I've done it before. I'm quite good. I've literally maybe done it a handful of times in 3 years where I just haven't like gone for the run on that day that I said I would. And it's like, it's just horrible. It's just a horrible feeling. It's actually horrible because say you were going to go out at 6 and you decide, oh, I'm too tired, I don't want to go out. Just the rest of the evening, you're just like, why did I do that? Why did I not do that? It's just stuck in your head. You can't get past it. But I guess it depends on what importance, because some people might not put as much importance in training or just running in general. And they might be like, oh, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I don't know.
Do you think then it's worth firing that same thing back at you and saying, look, don't tell yourself you're going to get up in the morning if you're not going to anyway?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I don't really tell myself that often. I'm not very strict with like the morning thing.
Yeah,
I probably could get up, like be stricter, but it's different. Like with running, I'm very strict, and I have a very strict mindset on it. But it's easy to be strict 10 hours before you actually do it. You know what I mean? Like you start the day like, I'm going to go for a run today. I don't ever necessarily when I go to bed go like, I'm going to get up.
Yeah.
Like it's not as big a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. What do you do? Do you have anything like that where you're
Yeah,
if you do it, you have to do it. If you say you're going to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing for me. I'm very interested in it in all areas of life, really. If this whole underlying value of like motivation and discipline and balance and how that all plays in. But I think, yeah, the honeymoon period is a real challenge.
Yeah, it is.
With anything, whether it's getting up early, because you know, like you'll have it like with getting up early as you will do with running or any other thing you're trying to do more of. So yeah, I think for me, it's, you said being honest with yourself. I think that is the thing, really. It's like, it's fine if you're just saying it with mates and you're just sort of like, yeah. And underneath it's just being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And that inevitably does feed out into how you interact with other people. You know, there'll be people who say, oh yeah, I want to do this, but you can tell they're not going to do it. But I think the more honest you are with yourself, the more these things will actually get done in the long term, or not get done.
Yeah.
You know, I've went through years with meditation as the example of being like, oh, I should do it. I know I should do it. I'd go through various honeymoon periods where I'd get back into it, and then I'd have a week or two and I'd be like religious with it. I was like, now I'm feeling clearer. And then I wouldn't do it anymore. Yeah. And it took me a point where I had to sit down with myself and go, what is this meditation thing? Do I actually want to do it or not? Just being clearly honest with myself, and I think it's not judging what the answer to the question will be. I think that's another thing. And that's what I find when asking people questions, is that there's already an expectation of judgment going to come with it, which is understandable. When, you know, I sometimes do ask people some very tough questions, and it's very intimidating. It can be very intimidating. But I think with yourself, it's like, I'm going to sit down and go, do I want to, let's say, eat better? Do I want to cut down on having takeaway? Let's say I'm having takeaways 3 times a week. What do I want to do about that? And being really honest and being open to, at the end of that, going, actually, I want to continue getting 3 takeaways a week. So the 3 takeaways you're getting are healthy takeaways from your company.
Yes.
Then that might be a way around, but only if you sit down and think about it. Because otherwise, if you don't really be honest with yourself, you don't have to sit down and think about it in the same way I do, but if you're not really honest with yourself, then all these reasons will become excuses at the back of your mind. Oh, but takeaways are, you know, I could get a healthy takeaway, but if you never do, then... Yeah. So I think that's a key thing, really, of going like, do I want to get up in the morning?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I've thought about it. I'm not that fussed. and that's fine.
Yeah, it is.
Do I want to run? Do I want to build myself up to a marathon? No. Fine. Yeah, actually, I would like to do that in my lifetime. Or, yeah, I'd like to actually do that this year.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's that, yeah. And I think then the motivation naturally, for me, it seems to come out of that. Once you've got all your ducks in order.
Yeah.
It seems to happen, not easily.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not easy at all.
No.
It's not. But
But it's easier, I think.
It's easier to not fall off the wagon, but God, I don't know what percentage, but like a lot of like when like days, like, man, I just want to chill out tonight. You know, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go for a run. I don't want to train. But then you always have that. If you don't have that, then it's easy to be like, no, I won't do it. Like, I'll chill out, because it's easy to convince yourself not to do something. It's sometimes really hard to convince yourself to do it. But I guess, yeah, if you think it depends. And like, yeah, if you think that the meditation is going to be really important for, you think this is something I need to do, then it becomes a very easy solution. And then the question is just like, yeah, are you going to do it then? Are you going to do it? Because if you're not, you're letting yourself down, because you're not doing what you should to, for whatever reason. But I think, yeah, a lot of people struggle with that.
And I feel, I mean, my feeling is that if your beliefs are the best, most effective fuel for behavior, in my opinion. Because I've just seen that in my own life. Like, it could be different for everyone, but that's just my own feelings about it. But I found that when I figure out what my core beliefs are, or even change my core beliefs, then things come out of that change. Yeah. So yeah, that's why it's really, I find it, part of the reason I find it very interesting, reading, watching and listening stuff that challenges my beliefs, because there might be a big lifestyle change that comes out of it. Yeah. But yeah,
it's a tough one. It's sometimes you do want to shake people. Say, come on, just do it.
This was another question I had. Watching these sort of things and becoming more motivated in your life. Yeah. Do you naturally become more frustrated with people that aren't?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm not saying like it sounds bad, like because obviously we're talking in like the aspect of running. Like, obviously there's other things in my life that could like be improved on or whatever. But I do get really frustrated because I just know, I just see it. It's like, yeah, you do just want to grab people and shake them. It's like, come on, let's go. Let's have some energy. Let's, like, you want to do it? Let's do it. Let's come up with a plan. But just sometimes people, like when I said I wanted to come into it, I came up with a year plan. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. So it does. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be better at that, and I think I am. But it does sometimes get to me.
The reason I asked is because I felt that after reading David Goggins' book. It was only David Goggins' book, because it was the only negative that I got from it is after reading it and during reading it, when people were saying, oh, I'm going to I was just like inside, like, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just like people being just like wet about it. Like, come on, let's go. Let's do this. Yeah. It probably used to frustrate me more, but now I don't. But it is just that whole thing. Like, mate, if you want to lie to yourself, you want to cheat yourself, then it's nothing to do with me. But just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it, man. Come on.
Well, I feel like it's getting on in the day.
Yes.
I feel like
it's probably got way darker whilst we've been doing.
Yeah. And I feel like this would be a good time to wrap up.
Yeah, sure.
I've got one last question.
Okay.
Before I ask my last question, do you have any other things that you wanted to say, or any other questions for me, or questions for us both?
I did have a question for you.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So.
Oh, Oh.
Thank you for what.
I had, because I know, well, yeah, like we said, you're like, now you're like, you've read
Your
the Bible.
Yeah.
The David Goggins Bible.
Can't hurt me, David Goggins.
Can't hurt
check
me.
it out.
Recommended. And it's kind of had a little, like, an impact on you. And like you were saying, you're challenging the distance that you're going when you're running up the Auburn
Way.
We won't disclose it just in case you've got any stalkers.
That's true. Also, I want to say, I really didn't want to like this book. I really didn't want to like this book.
Yeah.
Ashton was banging on about David Goggins and this book for so long, and it is in my least interest to prove Ashton right. So I went in with the least open mind you can imagine. Like, this is not going to be. Maybe it worked in your favour.
Maybe.
But I was like, this is going to be a self-help book. At the very best, it will be all right. There'll be some nice little moments in there or whatever. I was absolutely blown away, and I couldn't help it. I couldn't bloody help it. I was like smiling, like in the first couple of chapters. I was like, fuck, if this carries on like this is going to be really, really good. And it was. The whole thing was great. Yeah. I had some issues with it, as you do with any book, but sorry, just for context.
No, so I love that. And what I said to you earlier, and I do have a problem with how people react to it.
Right.
Because I want people, I think the reaction to that book, and I know I'm not saying like this is the right way, this is the wrong way.
Sure.
But that is the reaction to the book. Like he's just that
is the only reaction.
That is the reaction you should have. It should be a bit of a kick up the arse. Like the whole point of the book is like, do you have more to give? Everyone has more to give. Like everyone has more to put into their life. They can be more active. They can work harder. They could do this. They could do that. Like there's always more you can do, and that's basically what David Goggins almost like shines a light back on you, and why I ended up running and why I ran ultramarathons, because I did have that extra bit to give, which I didn't know or think I did. Like I still have the same, like my life's still the same. It's just this is on top of it. So my reaction to the book, I think people's reaction should be like a bit of not a wake up call, but like I can do more, and I want to do more.
I'm more powerful than I think I am.
And I'm more powerful, more strong, and but some people they just say, he's just like, I think he's just a bit of an idiot. Like he obviously broke his body doing the 100-miler, and I just don't really get it. Like it's a bit, you don't have to do stuff like that to be happy or whatever. And I just hate the reaction, because it's like, that's not the point. The point is like, it can be anything. If there's something that everyone has something in their head where they're like, I want to do this. I want to write more. I want to read more. It should just be that little kick, which go, you know what, I'm gonna. So yeah, I'm always very happy when people have that reaction, because it's like it sparks a fire that should be there. But so you've read it, and now you're like just dipping your toe into like pushing the distance that you're going on this path up and down. What's your what's your goal? Do you have a goal? Are you looking ahead? How far do you want to push it? What you're doing? It doesn't have to be a marathon, a half marathon, anything. Is there something where you envision this is where I actually want to take it?
In 2 weeks, I'm doing a 200-mile ultramarathon. So,
200.
Yeah. Yours was like 100 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it's all right. Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's pretty. 200 is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway from the book for me was jump into the pain.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what spurred me.
Yeah.
And I've done this before, and the reason I'm interested in the whole stuff I asked before about compartmentalizing is because I read a book like over a decade ago called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Very, very cheesy book, but it changed my life.
Yeah.
There was a few books and it was, I mean, it's all in the title. You don't really need the book. I would recommend it to people if they want a very easy self-help book to read. Yeah. I haven't read it since then, so I don't know how bad it is, but it changed my life. And I pushed myself out of my comfort zone again and again. And I've had that in my life, mainly because in the area of like social situations because when I was a teenager, I was very socially insecure and I had a lot of stuff going on just internally. I had a very privileged upbringing, but I remember we talked about this before, how like I felt very out of place in our friend group.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel funny enough, didn't feel smart enough, didn't feel cool enough.
I mean, you were right.
I knew.
No, that's mad to
but
me.
But then I would look at your hair and I'd be like, well, at least I don't look like him.
Yeah, that is mad. That wasn't like, you were really like chilled out guy. You're a cool guy.
Yeah, no, under the surface, I was just like, I would turn down, I'd fake plans and stuff.
Nuts.
Because I just, without being conscious of this at the time, but looking back, I was just trying to avoid my insecurities. That's That's all, and that's how painful they are.
Yeah.
So when I read this book, I translated it as social situations. So, I've done stand up 3 times, not because I think I'm funny. I've done life drawing where I've been naked. I've done that twice. The second time that's another story, but it was so awkward. And it was one of the most awkward situations I've ever been in.
God.
It was actually for a hen do.
Oh, I think I remember you saying,
And it was...
Were they giggling?
No. Maybe I can just quickly go into this.
Go on.
It's so awkward. Stand-up's one of the hardest things I've ever done. But this was when I was in terms of before it, like the moments leading up to me going up and trying to be funny was one of the most scary things I've ever done.
Yeah,
if not
brutal.
The most scary.
Yeah.
But one of the most awkward, if not the most awkward situations when I've already been in it was, so I'd done life drawing. I did it for free. It was just this local art place. And I was like, that's another thing. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Go for it. I'm going to feel really uncomfortable, but it will push me out my comfort zone more.
Yeah.
It's like this expanding circle, what your comfort zone is. That's how I saw it. So this other thing, I was like, well, people told me I could get paid. So I contacted this place and it was for hen dos.
Okay.
Where you stand and you're naked. And usually there's always 2 people apparently that go to these on the naked side of things.
Yeah.
One of them is like the organizer and the party host. And the other one will be the naked model.
Yes.
And they switch it up, but you can only be a host after you've been a model once.
Okay.
They threw me in and they said, look, something's come up. We really need someone. You would be the model and the host. We can pay you double, but you're going to be both. So you have to be like someone who's going to be like really entertaining and get all the hens all like enjoyable and stuff, which is obviously a job in itself to keep it entertaining. And you're also going to be standing there naked.
I could just imagine you like skipping about naked.
Come
on guys, let's go.
So just before they arrived, I got there early and I have to set up the chairs and you're giving all these materials that you're supposed to hand out. But as the model, you're supposed to be naked when they arrive because then they're like, oh, what's going on here?
So you had to undress.
Yeah. I went for a wee before.
Okay.
This added another element to it. So I went for a wee just before.
Yeah.
And I was thinking at the start when they arrived, I got naked and that was all tough. And I was like, they all had the reaction like, oh, what's going on? And they weren't really laughing much, which made it worse. It was just a bit awkward. And then I told them what to do. And as soon as they started drawing and I was doing a pose, I was like, do a pose for 5 minutes. They draw, they all look at their drawings, laugh, blah, blah, move on to another pose. At the very beginning, I was thinking, I don't know if there's going to be piss on the end of my penis. And if there was a drip down there right now that's just hanging on the end of my penis.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be too awkward to say anything because it's extremely embarrassing. And I can't check because I'm holding this pose. So if I look down, it looks like I'm checking myself out, or you're supposed to hold the pose. You can't casually, when all eyes are on you, you can't casually do anything because any movement you make, especially when you're supposed to be still, they'll notice whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So I can't look down. I also can't check with my hand just to wipe it to see if there is anything there. So the whole time during that first pose, that's all I was thinking. And it lasted an eternity. And then between the poses, I did have a quick glance down.
And it was all right.
There was nothing there.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, sorry, it's a really long way of answering your question. But so I focused that. And that was a book that had a massive impact on me. This book, I don't think is going to have the same impact, and it hasn't had the same impact because that was absolutely life-changing. I mean, it may do. It's changed your life. The podcast has more than you thought. But this, for me, the main takeaway was it was jumping into the pain, jumping into the struggle, and I don't think I'd learnt that or seen it as viscerally as you go into this book. We're saying, like going into 100 miler without any training, and just his feet, they had pictures in the book, like just mangled, pissing blood, shitting himself. He just kept going. And he had an awful upbringing as well.
Yeah.
Which was even more like, wow. Like, so I think, back to your question about what I see this with the running I'm doing now, it's the mindset. And the first time I went on a run, it was like just over half a mile, but I'd never run from here to Morrison's, which was the point I wanted to get to, in one go before. I'd done HIIT training up to there and usually back again. So yeah, I was just like, I'll go there. But that first run, it was such a small run, but my mind was just going, it was mainly my lungs, because I was prepared for the pain, because I was like, I know it's really going to hurt, but I'm just going to push through it anyway. So then my lungs were like, they felt really tight, and all the thoughts were coming in. I had asthma when I was a kid, and maybe my lungs are going to give out, and all these things going through my head. And purely for that mental reason, it was very difficult. But yeah, it was that, and then I've done more and more, and I've just gone further and further each time. So that was just a run to Morrison's, and then I walked back. And then I expanded that first way run, that single way. And now I've got to the point where I've gone to a point running, which is a bridge beyond Morrison's, and back to here. And this morning was the first time I did that. And so I'm just going to keep pushing it more and more. And then I would like to do a half marathon with someone, hopefully my brother.
Is that a little hint to him?
Yes, it is.
Watch it.
Yeah. He was someone that after
do it.
I was just like, I really wanted to just do it. We're gonna lose. So
got to take yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's what he teaches. Like, I think it's very easy to be comfortable in modern society, and I think it's very powerful to be putting yourself in situations like that when you're in pain, just because I think we should. I think comfort is, I don't think it's good for you. Like, happiness is sold as like leisure, relax, have some leisure. I don't think that's happiness, because it hasn't for the 100,000 years of human beings. So there's definitely power in pushing yourself and having some, and achieving something and going through something that's tough, and then you feel that buzz after. We're like, I did it, and you go again. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
half marathon maybe one day.
Yes.
Then
and at the moment I see it as, like, to be honest, that's not the main thing on my mind. The main thing is just pushing myself more each time I run. That is the thing that I know, because the half marathon I can feel is going to be more of like not being honest with myself. I don't want to say, I'm going to do a half marathon, because that's not motivating me. What motivates me each time is setting a goal each time I run, and that's achievable. Because I'm just pushing it a bit more.
That's the way to do it.
So
just
next time,
steps.
I've gone to the bridge and back now, and now I'm going to just run to the bridge next time, and I'm just going to keep going for what, maybe half an hour more or whatever, and then come back. So, so I'll just keep going more and more. And then, I imagine naturally these sort of events will start to be like, well, might as well do a half marathon.
You get addicted to breaking down those, getting past those milestones. What can I do next? What can I do next? And that's where it snowballs. You were running 50 miles in no time.
And so from here to the end of the Auburn Way is 3.5 miles.
Okay.
So their back is half marathon.
Yeah.
So that's actually quite a good thing to go for. So yeah.
You should do it.
Does that answer your question?
That does.
Yeah.
Very nicely, may I say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, it is late in the day.
It is.
You've been here for coming up 6 hours now. We have had times in between and stuff, but yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, my last question.
Oh yeah, we didn't even get. Okay, what is your last question?
Have aliens visited Earth? I'm joking.
Yes.
Just for context, me and Ashton have a. I don't want to say an ongoing debate because he is too chicken to debate me, but yeah, we. This isn't a genuine question, by the way.
Okay.
So
we'll debate it one day, though.
One day.
One day.
One day. So yeah. But you don't want to talk about it right now.
No, because they do exist. There's no point talking about it.
Yeah.
And they're on planet Earth. So waste of time.
Yeah. Evidence. Yeah, we just need to get to a point when we can both bring a stack of evidence and then have someone, maybe a jury, because I feel like it would be very difficult to find someone who's completely neutral.
Yes.
But like a jury of friends who have to like really, we'll do a formal debate.
Okay, fine. Fine, we will. Oh, I actually don't want to do it, though.
Don't do it then.
Nah.
Being honest with us.
Yeah, I know. I got to be honest, right?
Cool. Let's leave it there.
Let's leave it there.
We've done it.
Wait. You had a question, didn't you? To ask me.
Yeah.
Was it that? Was that was the question? Oh, that right. I thought that was a joke question, and that's it. Okay, cool.
That was it.
That's the answer to my question.
Ending on a joke.
Ending on a fun, good times for all.
Yes.
For all.
And for all a good night.
Yes.
Thank you for everyone listening. Thank you very much, Ashton.
Thank you for hosting me in your lovely flat.
Thank you.
Apartment, whatever.
Yeah.
Whichever one.
This is broken both of our cherries of a video podcast episode.
Yeah.
So that's good. We've broken our cherries together.
Not the first.
Hey.
This guy.
Which will bring us to what we're going to do after this.
Yes.
You're going to go home.
Yes.
And I'm going to put down all this equipment. There's actually a light here that none of you can see. That is. Oh, we did mention it at the start.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
It has been a long time.
So yes, thank you. This has been great. I'm pretty sure we've recorded it this time.
Okay, yeah.
So we've got it. And yes, I'm sure I'll see you at some point soon.
Hells yeah.
Yes. Thank you, everybody watching.
Bye.
Cue music.
Cue cool dubstep outro with DJ Productions or like DB Productions. DJB. It's got like be a 3D like words spinning around with explosions. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, it's actually your favourite song from George Styles, Tombstone.
Is that the outro?
Well, it's the intro and the outro.
Ah, nice.
Get him to do
a dubstep version.
Okay. Here's the dubstep. It's not going to be the dubstep version. Here's not the dubstep version of Tombstone by George Styles. Bye, everybody.
Bye.